Hey, folks. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. All right. I already see quite a few people in chat. Let me go through and see who we have here today. Um, let's take a look. Let's take a look. All right. Okay, we got Jay Shadow. Jay Fat Shadow, the first one here. Great job, Jay Shadow. Macy, of course, Macy. Hello, Macy. Big Braden, fantastic. All the whole crew coming together. Dubois is here. Hello, Dubois. Lynn is a little political. Hey, Lynn is a little political. Welcome to the chat. Gabe, you say seventh, Gabe. What are you referring to, Gabe? But welcome to the chat, Gabe. Grace Abrams, another original. Hello, Grace. Toya, fantastic. Another original. Toya. Druzilla, oh, of course, Druzilla, another original here. Salmon Forest. Hello, Salmon Forest. Very, very quickly becoming an original. See here, Lee Lane. Hello, Lee Lane. Original. Long Beach Dragon, of course. Hello. See here, Louise is here. Hello, Louise, another good original here. Yeah, Drusilla, you're not wrong. That was my fault. I did start a bit earlier than I said I would be starting. I just get inspired. I just want to hop on. So yes, okay. Hello, everyone. We got a lot to talk about today. Okay, so thank you, Macy, for your sacrifice. Really, I'm missing the first minutes of. Yeah, I get it. Okay, Wolfie's here. Hello, Wolfie. All right, fantastic. I love this. Okay, all right, guys. So again, we do have a 5 super chat thing going here. If we get 5, I'll put on the Jester hat as always. 10, I will put on the Jester collar. 15, I'll put on the Jester makeup, etc., etc. Okay, I think you all know how that goes. We have a few topics we're going to talk about today. You notice in chat I asked, and folks who haven't answered yet, feel free to do so if you'd like. If you've ever heard of Robert Paxton, because we're going to do a little lesson here at the beginning. You know how I like talking about fascism. We're going to talk about Robert Paxton's 5 stages of fascism, which I think might be kind of traumatizing for all of you, since you'll probably see a lot of similarities to our lives today. Okay. After that, Dubois, I would prefer you be. That's actually good. Dubois says I missed yesterday because I was outside all day playing some football with friends. Always good to touch grass, Dubois. I'm glad you did that instead of watching. That is great. Yeah, there you go, Big Braid. And that after we talk about Robert Paxton's 5 stages of fascism, there was a very lively debate that occurred in Discord yesterday regarding capitalism and fascism. We will be talking about that a bit. I really enjoyed watching that debate. There you go, that word, yeah. You're definitely my fave socialist there, Fox Emblem One. Yeah, Universe's fave socialist revolutionary is here, just at work. Hey, I got you. Okay, sorry, you got to be toiling away for the bourgeois there. Okay, okay. We all all right. So let's see what we can do. So what I'm going to do is let me pull up the page here. Thank you, Macy. Yes, I think that the gain is all the way up. Well, I could put up the gain a bit more, but the volume is definitely all the way up. But yeah, thank you very much, Macy, for the super chat. That's our first super chat. I don't know. Again, it's not registering for some reason, but we're at this point. We only need 4 more super chats, and I'll put on the Jester hat. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? I'm going to switch over to the other page here so you all can see what we're doing. Let's see. Right. I'm going to move this down a bit. I feel like it's like kind of skimming the top of my head there. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, there we go. That's much better. All right. Let's get into it. Let me switch over here to the. Oh, now it's a bit crooked. Oh well. Well, kind of symbolic of me, a bit crooked. Okay. Here we go. All right. So let's do this. Okay. So you'll see here, right? I have a nice setup here for you. We're going to talk about Robert Paxton's 5 stages of fascism. While we're doing this, as always, I want you all to sort of think about how this might apply to what we're seeing going on in the United States. Okay. Robert Paxton is one of the probably right now is the most premier expert on fascism. Okay. one of the most cited experts on fascism, really brilliant guy. And in the 1990s, so this was well before some of the well, maybe not well before, but this was before Trump and stuff. Okay, my point being, he's kind of a prophet. You'll see what I mean. He wrote an article called "The Five Stages of Fascism," which gained a lot of popularity, and he also wrote a book, which is on the next page here, called "The Anatomy of Fascism." I posted this in our Discord. Our Discord, if you guys join the Discord, there's a resources section. I posted this in the Discord, and The Anatomy of Fascism. Highly recommend it. It is a bit. Robert Paxton is a great academic, but he's not the best at communicating with the public. Let's just put it that way. So it is kind of a. It's not. I wouldn't say it's the most enthralling read, but it is a very, very good academic look at fascism. Okay, so this is if you want to read more about this, this is a great book to read about this. All right. Okay. So let's see here. Let me another thing, folks, before I begin. If you are watching the stream and you would like to help support the channel, or if you'd like to comment, you can subscribe to my channel, and then in 5 minutes you'll be able to post in the comments section. You will, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can become a member. All the members, by the way, folks, speaking of members, I added another little emoji for everyone. If you become a member, you can use these emojis. I added another one per the recommendation of Macy. It is Hillary Clinton. I need to make it so you can see it better. It is Hillary Clinton. Hello, JK. It is Hillary Clinton when she walked into a working class apartment and kind of had a look of disgust on her face. So that's a new one. You can also find all these lovely little emojis if you are a member. Okay, I'm posting them there. Let me do a little advertising there. There you go. Okay, so now we got 5 of them. There we go, Drusilla. Thank you for using it. You also get that cute little, look at that little adorable thing, that little Jester hat next to your name. Okay, so cute, for as little as 99 cents a month. You can also become a member on Patreon and support me for $5 a month, where I will also post exclusive content and things like that. Okay. All right. Enough of the self advertising here. Let's get into it. Um, uh, yeah, right, Michael. Right. Okay, so let's get into it now. Yeah, 1492. That's a way to put it. Okay. So again, this is a great book. Robert Paxton is great. I see most of you have not heard of Robert Paxton. Some of you have. Excellent. So let's get into it. So, okay. All right. As I said before, again, a lot of these slides are a guide for me. I know it's kind of, you're not really supposed to, by the way, when you make slides like this, just throw a bunch of information on them. So please bear with me, okay? So in his 1998 paper, The Five Stages of Fascism, okay, Robert Paxton suggests that fascism cannot be understood solely by its ideology. Now, we looked at Umberto Eco. We also looked at Roger Griffin in earlier streams. Both of those are mainly about fascist ideology and less about what fascism actually looks like on the ground, okay? Robert Paxton took a different approach. He said, no, the ideologies of fascism are kind of all over the place, and it's much more complex than just what fascists think. You really can only look at it from what it actually looks like on the ground, what it does, what it looks like, which makes sense. Remember yesterday, I think it was, or a few days ago, I said how like fascists aren't really going around reading theory. Okay, now it is the case that like communists and socialists are very much into theory, fascists not so much. So it's more important to look at what fascism actually looks like physically on the ground, okay? And that's what he really looked like, what he really looked at. And he focused on fascism political context and how it actually develops, what it actually looks like. And in his comparative study, he found that there are sort of 5 stages that all fascist movements kind of move through, and they don't go through all of them. Okay. They don't go, some of them don't go through all of them. Some of them stop at certain stages, but they do tend to go through this same 5 stages. Only 2 fascist regimes have gone through all 5 stages, and that would be Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. Okay. So that's his theory. Now, let's take a look at what he says those 5 stages are. And again, folks, Feel free to comment in chat. I will be loving to see you guys compare this to modern times, okay? And I think you will see what I mean. All right. Now, again, some of this is phrased in a very academic way. I will try to translate it for you a bit here. Okay, so let's get to the first stage of fascism. All right. Okay. Stage number one is called intellectual exploration. So at this stage, disillusionment with popular democracy manifests itself in discussions of a lost national vigor. So at the very early stages of fascism, a lot of people in a society will start is a lot of people in a society will start to feel that their democratic system is no longer functioning, all right, because it is not providing what people need, want, etc. And so you'll start to see this discussion amongst far right groups and such that, oh, we've lost our national pride, we've lost our national vigor, we're decaying a bit. So you start to see those kind of discussions happening. Okay, that's the first stage of fascism. It's sort of this proto-fascist stage where you start to see these discussions happening, and that can happen over a long period of time. Now, I suspect you all can kind of think of some things that have happened in the past 20 or so years that have been a lot of things in our society have been these discussions. Okay. Okay, Robert McGarry, welcome to chat. Yes. The idea of losing national vigor and even the phrase "Make America Great Again" is all about assuming that America has lost its national vigor. It has been weakened. Okay. Um, so that is that sort of thing. Okay, if that makes sense. And by the way, for many years now, this stage can last for a while. We have seen discussions like that. Go absolutely, Robert. Thank you. As everyone knows, Reagan, who's currently burning in hell, in my opinion. Okay, I mean, I'm an atheist, but we can only hope, right? Would a lot of this stuff started with Reagan. Okay, these discussions of the United States losing its national vigor. Okay, whatever that may mean. By the way, a lot of times this is translated as it's losing its masculinity. It's losing it's too empathetic. Women have too much influence. LGBTQ folks have too much influence, etc. Minorities have too much influence. It's losing its vigor. Yeah, I'm sure you all see where I'm going with this. You can see this a lot. Thank you. Tiago's back. Hello, Tiago. Thank you very much for the super chat. Donate to the cult, says Tiago. Also, you should all donate to the cat shelter where I'm a volunteer. Also, where's my reaction? I'm an impatient kid. I promise I will get there, Tiago. Thank you very much for the super chat. Don't, yeah. Oh, you're right, Michael. The Democratic Party, okay? Okay. No problem, Wolfie. I'll see you later, Wolfie. Great. I'm sorry, Grace. I missed you. Hey, Grace. Hello, Grace. Another one of the originals. Hey, Grace. Actually, I did see that you were there. I just forgot to call you out. Grace is here. Hello, Grace. All right. Okay. Um, yeah, Fox Emblem. Yeah, as always, Fox Emblem, an intellectual here. Yes. Translation to America currently, we are losing our whiteness and our superiority 100%. There's actually been lots of surveys recently. A lot of white people feel that, again, whether it's right or wrong, it's wrong. But let's say whether it's right or wrong, that the worst form of racism right now is I got you, Grace Abrams. Well, welcome back. They feel that white people are the biggest target of racism. Now, for those of us in chat who might know better, that's almost hilariously inaccurate. Regardless, yes, there's a sense of a loss of these things. Okay. All right. So that's stage one. Over time, then fascism evolves into stage two. And by the way, in Weimar Germany, especially, there was the Weimar Republic where there was a lot of stuff going on after the war that made people feel that the new democratic government was not reaching its aims, and all these weird discussions started about a loss of national vigor in Germany. Okay, they need to restore German greatness. Okay, so that is the first part, is intellectual exploration. Okay. I remember. Oh, I get it, Macy. The grapes, yes, from South Park. Okay, here we go. We only need 3 more super chats, by the way, folks, and then I'll put on the Jester hat. Let's go on to the next one. Stage 2, okay, according to Robert Paxton, is where, okay, a fascist movement uh, aided by political deadlock, so where a democratic government is not able to do anything because there's a deadlock in the political system for a number of reasons, and deadlocked by polarization. I'm going to say this again. A fascist movement aided by political deadlock and polarization. So where there's political polarization, the political spectrum, people go towards the left and the right, which makes it harder to get things done, all right, becomes a player on the national stage. Honest question here, folks, is I don't want to put any thoughts in all of your heads, but do we feel we've gotten to this stage, if not beyond it? Okay, because of political deadlock in a democratic system, which makes it so that the democratic system isn't working, and because of political polarization, the fascists are able to become a dominant player on the national stage. Very much, Michael. Okay. Thank you, Oz. Yes, folks. Please like the stream if you haven't already. This will help me. There you go, Carlos. Welcome to chat, Carlos. Yeah, Macy. I would actually agree with that, Macy. That this may have been happening longer than we think. Yeah, please, folks, like the stream if you don't mind. That'll help get more people in here. I see 14 likes and 28 people watching. As many of you liking as possible would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay. So I think we can safely say we've gotten to this stage, if not beyond it. And again, remember, Paxton wrote in the 1990s, so it's not like he knew what was going to happen before it happened. He just looked at past fascist movements and noticed these trends, and boy, do we see a lot of them today. Okay, kind of a prophet in that way. Now let's go on to the next stage. All right. Okay, the stage 3 is called the arrival to power stage. Okay, the arrival to power stage. At this stage, conservatives seeking to control rising leftist opposition invite fascists in to share power. Um, I have to say it? Modern Republican Party. Okay, there was some pushback, I suppose, against the MAGA movement, but not much. And at this point, the conservative movement has almost fully embraced Trumpism, minus a few never Trumpers. Okay. Um, I should also note, well, I think that might be the next stage. I'll skip there. Okay. Um, so, meow, meow. That is for Tiago. Okay, I'm meowing because Tiago works in a cat shelter. Let's support the kitties, shall we? Okay. Meow. Okay, there. Excellent. Okay, post Eisenhower, right, Robert McGarry. And again, I think this could go back farther than I'm implying here. But I think most people can see these stages now. It may have been harder to see previously. Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for all the meows for Tiago here. Okay. Um, so again, conservatives seeking to control leftist opposition invite fascists to share power. Now, yeah, okay. So just I think you can all see that. I don't know how much more I need to go into that. I think you all understand that. Um, okay. Meow. Hello, Death died today. Okay. Welcome back. Another original here. Oz. All my children are rescues. Oh, yeah. My baby girl is a rescue as well. So okay. Um, let's go on now. Okay, so that's the third one. Again, folks, if we get 3 more super chats, I will put on the Jester hat. Okay. Oh, thank you, Tiago. I'm glad they all said meow back. All right. Okay, let's go on. Now then. The movement, so the fascist movement, uh, that's a well, Grace, I will do that. Okay, I will absolutely do that here in a second. That's a good idea. We'll do a poll on that. Stage 4, exercise of power. Okay. Right. The movement, so the fascist movement and its charismatic leader. Now, I do think that's kind of a funny word because Jesus Christ, I don't know if we can call Donald Trump charismatic, but I guess he kind of is, right? I mean, he's kind of funny, I guess, in a kind of moronic way. So the movement and its charismatic leader control the state in balance with state institutions such as the police and traditional elites such as the clergy and business magnates. Okay. What do we see happening in the Trump administration? Okay. I mean, the elites, the wealthy business owners have almost all lined up right behind him. Okay. Look at who donated to his campaign. Do we remember after after he won that there were a lot of people like Jeff Bezos, what's that other idiot? Yeah, the Facebook guy, or Meta, excuse me. Who cares? I know, but they started kind of trying to suck up to him and stuff. Okay, so at this stage, um, this is where all the after the fascists have gained power, all the state institutions start lining up behind them. Zuckerberg, thank you. Musk, absolutely. I can't believe. Excuse me, I can't believe I forgot Musk. Yes, Druzilla, absolutely. Yes, Zuckerberg, I love that. Druzilla says Hegseth, loving Pastor Wilson. Yes, we watched some videos yesterday of this Christian nationalist pastor. A lot of evangelical Christians, especially the pastors there, are lining up lockstep right behind Trump. Okay. Um, um, So at Lee Lane, I've got 2 dogs, Grace. I believe they are lefties. Believe they're LGBTQ. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Robert. That correct. Okay. This is what makes sort of fascism different from like just traditional authoritarianism. Fascism is authoritarianism, but not all authoritarian movements are fascist. Robert Gary says, yeah, the muskrat, absolutely. Robert Gary says this stage is what makes it fascism, not just authoritarianism, 100%. Okay. So yeah. Now then, um, yeah, I know, right, Grace Abrams, that pastor is nuts. If you go back and watch my reaction yesterday, I had not heard of this guy before. I had not seen his stuff. I was literally like, I could not. For those that were there, you could see I was having some issue. I was having a bit of an issue there processing what I was hearing. Michael, that's hilarious. My fish all swim counterclockwise so that they are lefties. All those comrade fish of yours, love it. Okay. Yeah, Alan W. 100%. Alan W. says Trump said he'll bring regular military into DC and that Chicago and New York are next. Hello, London. Welcome to the stream, London. London, our Discord hero is here. Yeah, there you go, JK. Tim Cook giving gold gift 100%. Um, yeah, you're right, Tiago. What happened in Portugal was and isn't often cited as fascism. Some academics say that, but they would more lean towards authoritarianism. Um, okay. And just to go back here, I saw someone make a great comment where I said, yes. So going back to what Alan said, Trump said he'll bring regular military into DC and Chicago or New York are next. And I don't know if you guys saw the news today, but Hegseth is now allowing all of those National Guards members in DC to carry weapons. All right. And if you noticed in my stream title, I have the word Bolton there because as much as I think Bolton should be in a prison cell because he's a war criminal, Trump today, the FBI raided his house today after Bolton was on CNN multiple times bashing Trump. I mean, that's a police state type move. Again, would love to see Bolton in prison, but he is just being targeted because Trump doesn't like him and his political views. Okay, all right. Um, we are Lost Legacy. Welcome, Lost Legacy. Hello, are we talking about the orange fascists? Yes, we are. Well, somewhat. I mean, yeah, basically, we're talking about fascism. So, of course, Lost Legacy, we're talking about the orange. James, welcome to the chat. James, do you think America is going to heal post-Trump, or are we cooked? James, that is an excellent question. I don't fully know the answer, but the next stage might give some clarity on that. Okay, the next stage might give some clarity on that. All right. So now then, let's get to the next stage. Now, before we do, actually, I'll go to this next slide here. Okay. There is, to some extent, I guess, if you want to put it this way, Robert Paxton. I'll just tell you about it first, and then I'll mention this. Okay. So the last stage here is radicalization or entropy. All right. What that means is fascism tends to do one of two things. The first one is it becomes increasingly more radical to the point of like a Holocaust level destruction and death, World War II level destruction and death, or I should say it does one of three things. Or it slips into sort of just uh, traditional authoritarian rule by a military dictator or just a regular dictator, okay? One example of this might be Spain, okay? Spain kind of slipped into just authoritarian rule by Francisco Franco. Um, and there's one more option here, okay? Uh, it could collapse or destroy itself. So that part there does lend a small degree of hope, I guess, because a collapse or self-destruction doesn't look pretty. But um, uh, you have to understand, folks, that fascism is by its nature self-destructive. I mean, think about it. I'm right. I mean, Nazi Germany kind of declared war on the whole world. I mean, obviously, I'm exaggerating. It wasn't the whole world. Fascist Italy kind of descended into internal conflict. Okay. And I've told you before how fascist government's pretty inefficient. Um, because So Drusilla, that's a great question. I need to learn more about Spain, why he stayed after the war. Well, part of the reason there is because the fight between the fascists and like the left wing was so chaotic and so violent. A lot of folks in Spain turned to Francisco Franco, an authoritarian, because they viewed him as bringing order, which is why a lot of the times fascism can end in sort of an authoritarian, non-fascist rule. Okay, um, so those are sort of the three options. We see what happened in Germany is that it did end up becoming increasingly radical and then eventually self-destructed, okay, because of the war that it started waging that was, I mean, was moronic, okay? So, uh, I Italy, same way, it kind of broke down and then fell into authoritarian rule. And then fascist Italy, or not fascist Italy, but other places where there are fascist movements, you'll actually see a complete collapse of society, or of the government. Um, Okay. So, to go back to the question, I believe it was James that asked, do we have a chance after Trump? Yes, we do. One of the, I guess the problem here is, as I always say over and over and over again, if we don't fundamentally reform American society in a way that returns to the American people hope in their institutions, trust in their institutions, and a belief that democracy is working for them, then things will just get worse, and we'll probably end up having another fascist leader or an authoritarian government. Okay. So that is why I am always harping on the Democrats to stop being milquetoast little babies and to actually advocate for big changes. This is not a time for centrism, okay? It is not. We need major changes. Otherwise, this will keep happening and it may even get worse. It might radicalize. So, yeah, okay. So it depends if we get to that point where if we're able to make those massive reforms, that might help the situation at least temporarily. Okay. Um, okay. Lost Legacy here says it's more neoliberal policies and it stays the same. Another Trump will appear. And honestly, the president has been set. And I think any Republican will govern the same way now. Lost Legacy, unfortunately, I agree with you. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the issues, folks. Let's say, by some miracle, Trump doesn't stay for another term, and then we go back to a regular election or something. And let's say, even in theory, another milquetoast corporate Democrat gets elected. Um, uh, Now Trump, because Trump has already been in office, the next person to try that will do it much better, as in we'll be able to act. We'll be able to fix the mistakes Trump made, and will probably be easier to become a dictator. Okay, like you can't. It's almost like practice. Okay, it opens the door for a competent fascist to take over and make things worse. So we need, again, I repeat this because trust me, folks, as you know, I am desperate here. We need major reforms. Please don't stay in the center anymore. I get the argument that, oh, we can't push for big things, whatever. Now is not the time for that. We need big changes. If you don't want fascism, we need big changes. That is the only way historically to fix this. There aren't any other options. Okay. So we need some big changes, and that includes putting massive pressure, especially on the Democratic Party, so that they stop this bullshit, this nonsense that they do. Okay. Um, um, okay. Let me see here. Robert McGeary, yeah, yeah. There are more homeless people now than there were during COVID by a ton. 100%, Robert. Um, Exactly, James. Schumer, please, Schumer needs to go. Oh, sweet Jesus. Please get that man out of office. Get Hakeem Jeffries out of office. Get them out of office. All right. I cringe every time I see them get on the media. Okay. And they're all very corrupt. And by the way, you all know I'm not defending Republicans. They are also corrupt, if not more so. They're evil. They're fascists. But the Democrats are where we have more hope. What little hope we have, what little hope we have, but we don't have hope unless the Democrats change. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah, absolutely, Fox Emblem. What Trump is doing is bad, but imagine a more charismatic and evil person like that old Fox News host I always forget the name of. That would be Tucker Carlson. I think I've said before on stream, I am terrified of Tucker Carlson. That man knows how to manipulate the people that are listening to him. He's bright, not a compliment, by the way. He is bright. He knows what he's doing. That would be terrifying. Okay. So you could see more competent fascists taking over that would be able to achieve more in terms of authoritarian and dictatorial rule. Grace Abrams, oh, I totally feel you there, Grace. I cringe every time I see Schumer talk too. And if there's one thing, yeah, Tiago, and I will say, folks, you all, that's a good point here, Tiago. Drusilla, right? I wish Mamdani could be. Well, I'll get back to that, Tiago. I'm sorry. Drusilla, yes, I would love Mamdani to be president. Unfortunately, he was born in Uganda, which disqualifies him from that. But yeah, I think that's sort of the kind of person we need as president. Okay, Tiago, big changes doesn't mean you go left or anything. Big changes mean we should go towards human right, and there's a lot of ways to do that. So, folks, if you watch me, you know I'm a socialist. I am not even advocating, like, I am not saying we need to go very, very, very far to the left. Okay, I mean, yes, that's what I would like, but for fighting fascism, we just need major, major reforms. Yes, we will need to move further to the left because those major reforms will include things like universal health care, ranked choice voting, um, uh, you know, eh, why am I having a mind blank? You know what I'm talking about, okay? A more democratic system, getting money out of politics. We don't need to become socialist to achieve those things. When we talk about the debate yesterday in Discord, maybe I'll get more into this. But yeah, so please don't think I'm here just screaming that we need socialism. I am trying to say that if we want to stop fascism, we need some major reforms. Okay, it doesn't have to be the society my end goal of society. Okay, um, Miller is terrifying. Absolutely, Drusilla. Yeah, Grace Abrams. Grace Abrams, I'm terrified of what will happen if Trump dies in office. Vance and Miller terrify me. I'm right there with you, Grace. Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah. Mamdani versus Musk when Trump changes the requirement for running for office. Absolutely. Macy Schroeder, thank you for the super chat. John Stewart, 2028. Yeah, I am a big fan of John Stewart running for office. He may not be as far left as I would want, but think about it, folks. He's charismatic. He at least presents as standing up for the average person, and I suspect he'd be progressive in some of the things he'd want to change, and he would use the bully pulpit. I think. I don't know for sure, but that would be a much better option than someone like, for example, Gavin Newsom. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Which I know a lot of folks like. I do not. He's very good at talking the talk. He does a lot of, like I've always say, folks, actions speak louder than words. He's very good at the words part, but his actions, he's corrupt. He's not. I don't think he'd make enough change. Um, Thank you, Big Braden. Yes, Big Braden, please yell for me that we need socialism. As a teacher, I try to avoid overemphasizing that, though. I mean, I know I'm not really in a classroom, but hey. Uh, yeah, Radon. Yeah, okay. Tucker would be in the game character, would be the in-game character who chose the evil path after putting all his points in speech and charm. Radon, I love that, by 100%. I totally agree. Okay, if you were like playing Baldur's Gate or something, yeah, just put all those into speech and stuff and manipulate your way. What is it called? Lawful evil type character. Okay. Absolutely. We have 3 super chats. We just need 2 more folks, and I'll put on the jester hat. All right. Okay. Please like the stream if you haven't already. It'll help get more people in here. Yeah, Drizella, very sketchy, very sketchy. Let me see. Oh, such good checks. Yeah, Toya. Yeah. Okay. Toya says, I think we're underestimating the damage Trump already accomplished in less than a year. That is an excellent point, Toya. He has done a tremendous amount of damage. And you're right. It may be that a lot of the damage has already been done. And I don't know. That I just don't know the answer, but I do know what we need in order to get things back on track, at least generally. Okay. Yeah, Fox Emblem One, Gavin Newsom, the blender of the homeless, 100% there. Grace Abrams, we need to pray that Trump lasts 4 years. Pray that Trump lasts 4 years. I don't care if he's barely able to function in a diaper or corpse. He needs to stay 4 years. Uh, I do slightly disagree with you, Grace. I know what you mean, though. I don't want Vance in office. I don't want Tucker Carlson in office. But I would not, of course, mind if Trump. Well, you all know what I'm about to say. Okay. But I do know what you mean, Grace. They might be even more competent. The Lost Legacy. Thank you for the super chat, Lost Legacy. How about Marianne Williamson? I loved her run. I like a lot of Marianne Williamson's thoughts on things. That is for sure. I don't know if she has the charisma to counteract sort of the charisma of a fascist right winger. Um, I'm not trying to be too harsh on her. I do like a lot of the things she says. Okay. Thank you again for the super chat. One more, folks, and I'll put on the jester hat. Okay. Uh, London, Louise Hitchison, Newsom is the rage baiter the left needs right now for Trump. I agree. I like what Newsom is saying, like what he is verbalizing, and how I wish there was a progressive that would be fighting the same way that Gavin Newsom is. There are some folks. I shouldn't have said that. There are some that are doing that, but Gavin Newsom is really brilliant about branding and marketing. I do, but again, folks, we need someone who does major change. So even if Gavin Newsom does that, and let's say he gets elected in the next cycle, unless he does those changes, those big reforms we need, we're going to have an issue. Okay. But I like the rage baiting that he's doing. Uh, Grace Abram, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Long Beach Dragon, not Grace Abrams. I'm sorry. She's so frigid. I doubt any man has ever accomplished that nightmare. Yeah, that is yeah, okay. If Trump expired, yeah, that's a way to put it, Long Beach Dragon. If he expired, whether naturally or otherwise, that would not be the end of the world to me. Anyway, I heard MW had connections to Russia. Is that wrong? Drizella, I don't know. I have heard varying things on that. I have not looked into it. That is a fair question, though. Okay. Um, yeah. Welcome. I'm sorry, Hickam. Did I say the pronoun Hitchum? Slimani. Absolutely, and that is why Slimani. I think we need ranked choice voting or some sort of proportional representation system. The two-party system is not working. Okay. And it is leading to radicalization because both of those parties are right next to each other on the political spectrum, and there's not enough variety there for change. People have to choose between the lesser of two evils, which means that there'll never be change, and there's no sort of incentive for either party to make change, knowing that they'll have to be voted for if they're worse than the other party, if that makes sense. Okay. So I agree with that. Okay, AOC for prez. I would love AOC to run for prez. That my problem, of course, folks. I understand that this might be nitpicking, but I'm not a fan of genocide here. And some of AOC's votes on Israel have been rather disgusting to me. I do get it though. I Would she be better than a lot? Yes. Okay. And uh, Elefunk, Newsom employing Trumpism rhetoric and mannerisms isn't what we need. He is a POS. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not a fan of Newsom. However, Elefunk, I will say, I am actually okay with Trumpian rhetoric and mannerisms if it's a populist leftist candidate. Okay, because unfortunately, folks, if you're fighting against someone who at least presents as a populist like Trump, who does all these things to appeal to the average Joe. Okay, yeah, it is good to have someone that does the same thing, but you just need that person to actually do things that are good for the people. It's complicated. I don't think Newsom is the one. My opinion there, but yeah, I get what you're saying though, Elefunk. Okay. London says AOC lost me when she actively supports Israel. Yeah, yeah, that was really disappointing for me, London. Radon, I'm actually planning to do some gaming live streams at some point. I love gaming. Okay, I am a gamer. Spelled Gaymer. Okay, I am a gamer. So yes. Long Beach Dragon. Well, Long Beach Dragon folks, being from California here, knows quite a bit about Newsom. May even know more than I do. Long Beach Dragon says, well, given his rottenness, sourness, and distinctive smell, one can argue he already has. Well, at least, oh, I see you're talking about Trump. Well, it could be Newsom too. Yeah. Well, at least if he were dairy, it kind of looks like he's rotting, doesn't it? Tiago says, the problem with your political system is that it was a question of time for you to come to this situation with a guy like Trump. Yeah, in Europe is way more difficult to gain power like Trump has. Absolutely, Tiago. And when we get to this next section here about the debate on Discord, I'll talk about that because Europe is full of a lot of social democracies, which definitely slows down the descent into fascism and might even halt it in some cases. That is a debate, maybe a little left-wing infighting we could have here in a second. Yeah, but we are nowhere. Our kind of system here is very unfettered capitalism, and there's a lot of other issues. Oh, geez, Robert, don't give me a nightmare here. Robert says, "What do you think about?" Oh, Kana. I thought you said Kamala. Oh, Jesus. Oh, please, we cannot have her run again. Okay. What do you think about Kana? I love Ro Khanna. I I don't know. Honestly, I don't know enough about his votes on a lot of things. I do like a lot of what he does. I'd have to look more into that. It'd be better than a lot of folks. How is Kana on Israel? Does anyone know? In chat, please let me know if you do know. I don't know. Um, Gosh, so many good quotes here. Thank you, Lost Legacy. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, guys, we got two more super chats. Okay, well, time for me to put on the hat and I will read those. Let me read those first. Macy says, if you don't want everyone to have free food, you can starve. Love that, Macy. Love it. The Lost Legacy. Greasy Gavin smells of neoliberal. He is a neoliberal. If he is asked the tough questions in the debate, like Israeli, and gives the typical Democrat answer, he will lose 100%. The Democrats never learn, and that's what really bothers me. Okay, thank you guys for the two. So I'll pretend like we only need four more for the next for my caller, but let me get on the hat. For those that are in. There we go. Okay. Did you all hear what I said about the Jester? I may have hit the mute because I'm a fool. Literally, look, I'm dressed like a fool. Okay. Here, let me make a new super chat here, folks. If we get to five more, I'll put on the Jester caller. Okay, a new goal here. Five more. Jester caller. All right. Okay. There we go. We'll start it. All right, folks. Okay. So thank you again. Thank you, Lost Legacy. Lost Legacy. Okay. All right. Worst indeed. It does apply to both. What kind of games are we going to be playing? Oh, there's so many options. I love like the Souls games. I love um uh there's a lot of games I like. I gotta tell you. Okay. Uh Okay, Molly D, welcome to chat. Okay, the incentive for political parties is not how do I deliver better, more resources to people. It's about being perceived as the least worst option. 100%, Molly. And I will actually add on to that, Molly, because of money in politics. Most politicians' incentive is I need to do what my donors tell me. Screw the people. I'm just going to be blunt with you. Not all politicians accept corporate donations. There are some progressives, and weirdly enough, there's one Republican who doesn't. I don't even want to name him, but Matt Gaetz. But anyway, not a good guy, even though he doesn't accept those. Their interests are also with the donors, the people who donate to their campaigns, which are the wealthy. So we need to reform campaign finance. It's destroying us. Okay. And we're supposed to be a country by the people for the people. Okay. And it's not, it's by the corporation for the wealthy, etc. Okay. Let the trash take itself out. We support it. Diego Brando, Scary Monsters. Hello, welcome to chat. There's a lot of new people in chat today. I'm really liking seeing this. Big Braden, I love Hearts of Iron 4. Okay, we might need to start a community. Okay, Obtuse Rubber Goose. Uh, Macy, yeah, there is a mute button. That was my mistake. You all know how clumsy I am. Okay. Obtuse Rubber Goose, good to see you again. Ugh, I do not like Roe. He just comes across as a slimy attorney type. He also is a slave of Silicon Valley. That might be true, Obtuse Rubber Goose. I don't know enough about him, but I will definitely look into it. Okay, Alan W., to answer your question, Ro Khanna has shifted in the right direction on Israel, but is not good enough, in my opinion. That is okay. I will need to look more into that. RDR2. Why am I having trouble thinking what that is? Red Dead Redemption. Yes, love Red Dead Redemption, folks. Great game. Also historically interesting. I know I'm kind of a nerd in that way. Beautiful game. Great game. Okay, I love indie games. Okay. Oh, I know. Dark Souls 1 is difficult, Brandon. I'm sorry, folks. I know we're getting kind of off track here, but don't worry. I'm curious. London, it'd be really funny seeing you play Hearts of Iron 4 and turning American communist. Yeah, okay, anyway. Obtuse Rubber Goose, Disco Elysium, great game. Highly recommended. I actually am probably going to put it literally in the resources channel on our Discord because it is a great game for learning about different political ideologies, especially left-wing ones. But, okay. In The Sims, we put DT in the pool and remove the lag. Love it. Okay, if the FBI is listening, not literally, of course. All right. All right. Yeah, Drusilla, that is very true. So Tiago, so let me explain, folks. Okay, I'm gonna have to skip some of these because these are a lot of good chats, and I want to get on to what the debate that occurred yesterday in Discord. Radon, are we going to see you run a single boss for hours? Yeah, probably. Yeah, because I may not be the best at the game. It takes me a while to beat a boss, though I guess it does most people. But yeah, it's like Twin Blades. If I typically use that for Dark Souls 3, okay, yeah. So, All-Star Battle, really? I'll take a look at that, Diego. I don't know much about that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's correct, London. There was a debate. So yesterday, I'll get into it now. Okay, folks, I know there's a lot of great comments here. Forgive me. I'm going to go into this next segment here. I don't really have a slide for this, so we'll just chat together. I'm going to pull up my face here, and I'll explain to everyone what this debate was about. All right. Okay, guys. Hey, you're all looking lovely today, let me tell you. Okay, so just a reminder, folks, if you're watching the stream and you'd like to comment, you can subscribe to my channel, and in 5 minutes, you'll be able to make a comment on the stream. You can help support me by becoming a member. If you can become a member, you can have a whole selection of emojis to use in chat, and you get that cute little Jester hat next to your name. You can also support me on Patreon, becoming a member on there for only $5 a month. And thank you very much. That will help me very much to upgrade some of this equipment so I stop messing up and stop silencing it and stuff, okay? And stop messing up the audio. Okay, thank you for that. Let's talk. So, for those who don't know, I'm actually going to pull up Discord. Obviously, not on the screen here, but I'm just so I can kind of refresh my memory here. There was a really great debate that occurred between several people. I believe London was one of them. If you guys don't mind me calling you out here, Alan, Fox Emblem. Uh, let me go back here. Okay. And it is a debate that, well, let me get to it here. Okay, so a great debate occurred here. Who else was there? Uh, there was some other folks too, I believe. Alan, Salmon was on there. Okay, I know Salmon's. I saw there in chat too, and it was a debate uh, about whether capitalism, so our current economic system, inevitably lead to fascism. Okay, and there's been a lot of thought on this. Okay, thank you, London, for posting. If folks, if you'd like to join, if you'd like to join uh, the Discord, London, our hero, has just put in the Discord link into chat. We have great discussions on there. A lot of really good community. By the way, folks, I changed the name. If people don't like this, it's okay. I changed it from Casual Revolt's community to Casual Revolt's classroom. I hope that's okay. I don't like using the possessive there. It makes it sound like I own the classroom, but I just thought that would be kind of cute. Okay. Tiago, you were probably too busy cooking or something, to be honest, or you were with the kitties, which I support. Okay, so the debate that happened yesterday on Discord was, I don't. Please tell me if I'm wrong. For the folks that are in chat that were involved in this debate, I think it was sort of a social democracy versus socialism kind of perspective, different things on fascism. So there has been a lot of debate in the past if capitalism sort of inevitably results in a fascist state. Okay. Now, so let me tell you all, and that was what the debate was about. Now, um, let me explain real fast. Okay. So we've talked about Karl Marx before. Marx himself never really commented on fascism, but later Marxist thinkers did come to the conclusion that fascism would sort of naturally result out of capitalism. So I want you to imagine it this way, okay? Think about it. You have a conflict between the working class and the bourgeoisie, the upper owning class. And another aspect of fascism that I don't think I ever covered was that it is prone to crises, okay? Capitalism, there's always something called a business cycle where you have recessions and depressions intermittently because of how the system is set up. I won't go into it so far. Now, what do we know about fascism? Fascism thrives when the people of a country do not feel like their government is representing them or providing for them. And under an economic system where you have these intermittent crises, depressions, recessions, and things like that, that opens up a big opportunity for sort of fascist movements to take root, as we saw in these 5 stages. Okay. Um, and so, amongst other things, okay, one of the things that fascists do is they try to sort of cover up that conflict between the workers and the owners by lumping everyone together under the idea of the nation. Because they're ultra nationalists. So they're basically like, well, class doesn't matter. All that matters is the nation. And then they use the police state to sort of beat down any opposition to the capitalist elite, okay, as sort of a last ditch effort to save capitalism from what they view as a growing threat from the left. Okay. So that I will also say, I believe was it Salmon Forest who I also posted Salmon Forest's book recommendation. It is a good book in the resources. There's another. It's a really good book. It's called Fascism and Social Revolution, which is sort of a Marxist interpretation of fascism. Okay, now, so that is the theory here, right? That sort of inevitably communism will lead to fascism. Now, what do I think about that? I think I made it yesterday clear in chat here that I don't know. All right. Absolutely, fascism almost always fascist movements arise in capitalist societies, but it is also the same of left-wing movements. Also, just the nature of the capitalist system that it kind of spawns people trying to push back against the capitalist system. What we have seen in the past, and I think was it Fox Emblem, it may have been Alan too, made some great points about this. That if you have a system that at least provides, it could be a capitalist system or at the very least a partially capitalist system that provides for the needs of people And for example, things like universal health care, has a representative democracy that is effective and things like that. It can certainly stop fascism or slow it down. I shouldn't say certainly. It can certainly slow down fascism. It can also slow down left-wing revolts. Okay. Um, I guess my end conclusion here, okay, and I think the debate was fantastic. I really enjoyed actually watching them debate about this because it's an ongoing debate even amongst academics. Is we're not sure if capitalism does inevitably lead to fascism. It definitely does inevitably lead to movements that are fascist. Okay, um, but it is an interesting question to ask. So you can see in Europe, for example, there's a lot of countries over there that are social democracies, which they're essentially capitalist, but they have a lot of socialist elements where you do not see that kind of vicious rise of fascism. You also, on the other, do also see that if you were to create a system like that that is more willing to crack down on fascists, you might be able to maintain that system for longer. Does it mean you'll hold it off forever? I don't know. I don't know if fascism has been around for long enough for us to know that. And I'm being serious with you, right? Like it's only been around since about what 100 years ago or so. Probably maybe a little more than that. We're just not sure, but it's just something to think about. Okay, so it's an interesting debate. But lastly, last thing here. Um, if you're one of the people that do think capitalism ultimately results in fascism, then you should definitely act like that's the case. And I totally support that. If you want to take that route, I support that. It is absolutely possible. So definitely act that way. Act that because we're definitely there. We're heading there. Okay, I mean we're already there. So then definitely we need to push against capitalism if that's the case. I think everyone should take their own stand on this. But it's just an interesting debate. I just kind of wanted to cover it. And a real big shout out here to Fox Emblem and London and sorry, Salmon, okay, and a Big Braden too. Big Braden was at the beginning too. It was a really good discussion, and I do appreciate that. You were all because we all know how lefty infighting goes, right? You were all pretty able to kind of stick to your to be fairly respectful and stuff, which is great. Okay, um, okay. Let me see here, folks. I'm going to let me look out. Let me just look at the chat here. Radon, video ideas through which you can bring in different kinds of audience. Yes, Radon, if you do go to the Discord, there is a suggestions channel. You can make some suggestions in there. I'll post them in Discord. Thank you, Radon. Okay. Fox Emblem, pretty much, yeah, it was fun. Okay, Jason Ellick, hello, Jason. Casual Revolts Court, you are a jester. Actually, that's a really good idea, Jason. Maybe I should call it Casual Revolts Court. Welcome to chat, Jason Ellick. Tiago, I probably was sleeping because of the time difference. Oh well, there's also that, Tiago. Okay, I I bickered about other things, stayed out of that long one. Hey, that's fair, Macy. Robert McGarry, that depends how much education the wage slaves have in this theoretical system. That is very true. There's lots of other factors I didn't bring into this, but it's a fascinating debate. I've actually, when I was in grad school, I got the opportunity to go to a debate between two historians. Each one was more of a Marxist leaning, and the other one was not, and they had a really great debate about whether this is the case. It is not. It is not clear. Okay, um, but again, if you want to check out some of the thoughts on this, I would read as the sort of Marxist perspective on this. You can find it in Fascism and Social Revolution, which Mongoose, not Mongoose, Salmon, sorry, wrong animal, brought. Okay, absolutely. Okay, um, yeah. Okay. Uh, Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Oh, that's the other thing, folks. I will say it's also the fact that it is true that there are some. I will say this, even as a socialist, there are socialist regimes that end up authoritarian. Okay. I mean, we cannot ignore the Soviet Union, China. So again, even if this is where it gets complicated, even if we would need to get rid of capitalism, we then have a new problem that we would need to figure out how to fix, which is the rise of authoritarians, which can happen because of political and social reasons. It's all very complex. But yeah, it was a great debate. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Lost Legacy. It took about 300-year project to become fully socialist. And a lot of the times when there's a violent sort of socialist uprising, like there was in Russia, it's because progress has really stagnated, and so there's a massive uprising demanding a lot of progress at once, which I think we might. I mean, the United States, kind of a disturbing example of where something like that is a. That's why we need some major changes and need them soon. Otherwise, it's going to boil up and boil over. Um, Uh, yeah, Robert McGarry, Walden too, B.F. Skinner, very good. Yep. Okay, that's another good one there. Alan W., we need to move to democratic socialism to ease the suffering until we can move into full socialism. Hey, I support that, Alan W. Yeah, with folks right now, we just need to hold off fascism. That is the number one thing. Okay, and yeah, for the socialist in chat, yeah, I trust me, I feel your pain here. I know that the end goal might not be within sight, but we need some. We need something else, okay? Okay, yes, go ahead, London. You can change the name to that. Hey, Alyssa's here. Hey, Alyssa. Alan W., I'm not in favor of accelerating such continuing suffer to lead revolution. With that logic, we should all vote Republican down ballot. Yeah, no. Totally agree with you, Alan. Totally agree with you. Please don't do that. Okay. It's easier to say that. And I'm not saying this about you, Alan. Okay. But I'm saying like for the people that do say that that we should make things worse faster so that there's a revolution. Remember who gets hurt most by that? The most exposed people in society, the disabled, minority groups, LGBT folks. Okay. So it might be easy for some folks to say that. It is not easy for the people who would suffer the most. Um, I know, right, Big Braden? Yeah, wow, I thought you had all the answers, and then my dad, yeah, okay, no, I don't, okay, and I think it's important that we all acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, and that's why I love debates like that, because we don't know, okay, a lot of ways. Yeah, welcome to chat, Mike. Mike, people ask as capitalism is something natural and almost given. I find it insulting to assume that we are compromised or doomed to stay in this natural capitalism. What is your take on this? Mike, I couldn't agree with you more. Capitalism is just one of many economic systems in history. Most of them don't last very long. Okay, we've had feudalism, we've had a slave system. Capitalism is just one more of those stages. It would be very strange statistically and due to different patterns in history if we stayed under capitalism forever, because there's always changes going on. There always. So yeah, it is not natural, right? We have constructed capitalism. It is a human invention. Okay, it is not somehow natural. If you want to talk about natural, okay, as an anthropologist, I can tell you that for most of human history, human beings lived in small bands of hunter gatherers. Much of our evolution was sort of based around that. So if you want to talk about naturalism, it would be sort of living with nature in a basic way, okay? But alas, with population and stuff, we're not there anymore. But yeah, capitalism, not a natural state. Um, yeah. Okay. And I will say that does not mean that socialism is a sort of natural state. In my opinion, though, it is a better state than capitalism. Okay. Um, by all accounts, in my opinion. Okay. That we could debate that. Progress stagnating is a great description of the yeah, absolutely, Big Braid. In the Tsarist Russia was way stagnant, okay, which can lead to a big explosion with extreme violence, which is what we saw. The same thing with the French Revolution. Now, that wasn't a socialist revolution. That was a capitalist revolution against a feudal system. But again, when you have these economic changes, it can cause big issues. Yeah, you're right, Death died today. I'm sorry for my anarchist friends out there. Very far away from the anarchists. I know, but I do like a lot of the anarchist ideas about, I'm not a big fan of authority, if you guys couldn't tell. Okay. All right. We got two. Thank you. So now we got two super chat, or I'm sorry, we have three super chats now. Thank you very much, Macy, for that. I'm not sure why it's not updating. Thank you for that. Change the one to a zero. For what, Macy? I'm sorry. For the super chats. Did I miss some people? Okay, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, I know, right? Big Braden, for most of human history, we were not under a capitalist system. Big Braden says, yeah, you're right, Macy. Antifa does get conflated with anarchists. Okay. Big Braden, yeah, capitalism is so natural. We survived centuries before that. Exactly. Um, Oh, I know, Lost Legacy. Don't even get me started on people conflating, especially liberalism with communism. Okay. Now, communism is a form of socialism, but there are many forms of socialism. Communism is viewed as sort of the end state for a lot of socialists. Um, So much nicer. Uh, yeah, no system is forever historically. That is accurate. Okay. And by the way, and it doesn't take these systems don't often last terribly long. Yeah, Macy, I agree. I like sort of naturalist ideas, degrowth type things. Um, yeah, you're right, Fox Emblem. I'm not an accelerationist, but currently we are unwilling ones. Yeah. Oh, I know. Things are definitely being accelerated without anyone trying. Okay. Oh, it's terrifying, Fox Emblem. Okay. Yeah, okay, but how dare you reveal me, Big Braid? And I hear the punk in you coming out with that one. Yeah, I know. I can't help it. Change the 1 to 0 like Rick and Morty. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, first of all, I love Rick and Morty. I know, hate me all if you'd like. Love Rick and Morty, okay? Great show. Promethean Rebel's back. Hey, Promethean Rebel. LOL. Everywhere I go, I am again reminded that Milton Friedman was a monster. Yes, I might actually post his book in resources. Yeah, his ideas were extremely destructive, not only in the United States but around the world, and major accelerated us towards fascism. Um, okay, Big Braden. You're right, and they changed the 1 to a 0 for the money of that empire. You're right, Macy. Okay, Big Braden. People in Canada will argue we are communists because healthcare. Oh my God, I would rip out my hair too, Big Braden. Though my I think is will probably fall out naturally before then. Okay, Obtuse Rubber Goose. My bad. Maybe a bad version of socialism. Right, right. Okay. Um, okay, Big Braden. Sorry, I got to head out for work. Okay, see you, Big Braden. Thank you for stopping by. All right, folks. So that I just wanted to talk about that. It was a really good conversation. Just something I want you all to think about whether we think capitalism does naturally. Again, I don't know. It is debated. There's great points on both sides there. All right. Okay, guys. So I did want to talk about one thing here that happened in the news, and then I'm going to react to some of the videos. Um, uh, Malthus. Oh, Drusilla. I would love to talk about Malthus. Monstrous man he was. Okay, maybe I will do a stream on Malthus sometime. Um, yeah. Yep, you're right, Alan. We are very far right, which is why I am concerned. If you guys go back to the first video I ever posted on my YouTube channel, it's terrible. Please don't do it. But maybe you want to, okay? It's terrible because of very low quality, kind of crappy. I just kind of got my camera and did it one day because I was feeling a certain way. I talk about my fear that we're going to break out into revolutionary type violence. And as great as revolutions sound in theory, there's always mass violence, mass death, and obviously the people that are most exposed get hurt the most. And I am deathly afraid that America is so far right and so backwards in terms of its economic system that eventually we are going to have that mass death and mass destruction caused by revolution. I mean, not prevent that, but we need to try and do something different that will still help everyone, but not have to have that stage of a lot of violence and death beforehand. Okay. Um, Yeah, absolutely, Fox. I agree. It is. It does prioritize capital over or money over people. That's unpleasant. Yeah. Um, yep. Not humane at all. Okay. Absolutely. I agree. Capitalism very inhumane, very against human nature, and it requires all these mechanisms of control for it to even work, which shows it's not very functional. Okay. Yeah. So Okay, but I do think socialism is a more natural state for humans, I guess you could say, because we do like we're altruistic in a lot of ways. We like working together and stuff, like in hunter gatherer groups. I feel like that's closer to what we need. Absolutely. I don't know if we could ever get like a perfect system like we used to be when we were hunter gatherers, just because of population in the world and stuff. But okay. All right, guys. So I did want to talk about something in the news. John Bolton. By the way, folks, if we get two more super chats, I'll put on the Jester collar. And if you're watching right now and you would like to leave a chat, you can subscribe to the channel, and in 5 minutes you'll be able to leave a chat. You can also support me on Patreon about $5 a month, or you can become a member for as little as 99 cents a month, and you get all these cute little emojis that I will now be placing in the chat. Ooh, cute little emojis! Hey! And I had recently added Hillary Clinton as one of the emojis. Her look of horror while walking into a working class home because she was an elitist, and she is an elitist, and I don't like Hillary Clinton. But moving on, we also you get that cute little Jester hat next to your name. Okay. Um, okay, guys. So I wanted to quickly talk about John Bolton. God help us all. Um, so okay. All right. So John Bolton. Okay, I'll pull this up here in a second. Now, again, folks, let me just make sure I make something clear here. Not a fan of John Bolton. None of us should be. He's an inhumane monster. Never saw a country he didn't want to bomb. Neocon monster. Okay, big proponent of the neoconservatism. Let me pull up this article here so you all can see it. This, though, just kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about, and also don't really trust CNBC. It was just the first thing that popped up, but it's a true story. So, okay. But of course, never fully trust me on this. Okay. So today, so John Bolton we used to be in the Trump administration, and I can't remember if he resigned or Trump booted him from it because of disagreements and such. And he has since then, he wrote a book kind of bashing Donald Trump. More power to him. More power to him there. But what ends up happening here, folks, is he has been on CNN because for some reason, God help us all, CNN has him on as a contributor. I don't know why the hell they would do that. Well, I know why they would do that, because he's an elite. They like him and he's anti-Trump. Regardless, he has been a contributor on CNN, and he has often done segments where he talks about bashes Trump and things like that. Well, today, actually, it was a couple days ago, he was on CNN again, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, Trump today raided the office of John Bolton. Okay, the FBI. I don't want to say Trump. I mean, we can guess it is Trump, right? I don't have evidence of that, but it was the FBI under the control of Trump raided the house of John Bolton. Now, I have read multiple things about this. Okay, I'm going to go through this to see if there's any more information here. They didn't really give a reason as to why they were doing it. I think they said that he might have classified records or something, which is hilarious since Trump was storing classified records at Mar-a-Lago in a bathroom. Anyway, yeah, who here thinks that this sounds like just a political retribution, like a classic fascist political retribution? Let's go after the enemy who I don't like because he talks bad about me and I'm a giant baby and I can't handle it. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, okay. This would not be surprise me for Trump, but this is a scary development. I know that this is probably not the first time Trump has done this. It almost certainly isn't his administration, but I'm just reminding you what the problem we are having here. Okay, this is a massively authoritarian tactic. So yeah, okay, literally going after someone that you don't like because they're your political opponent. And again, I am all for John Bolton being in prison, but not because of this. Okay, again, is just going after a political opponent. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing, remember how one of the stages of fascism is where the apparatus of the state is used to go after enemies, etc., with the support of elites and police. Okay, so this, and folks, even if, let's say, he doesn't end up, I guess you could say, oh, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay. What was that? Can everyone hear me? For some reason, the chat suddenly froze here. I don't know why. Can everyone? Am I good? Am I good? I'll reset the stream just in case. There we go. Okay. I think it's good. There we go. Okay. Can we also hear me? I hope. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. Sorry. Don't know that the stream was being weird there. All right. So this is just kind of a scary thought, right? So just be aware of that. Another sign that we are in the midst of fascism right now. And they also announced, Pete Hegseth announced that he is allowing. Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the chat. Good to see you here again, Luke. We are yeah. So again, not great. Okay. One more sign that we are in a fascist hellhole. Okay. Also, Pete Hegseth, we all know how there are tons of National Guard members kind of swamping the streets of D.C. Pete Hegseth has now authorized the use of weapons in D.C., not the use, but the carrying of weapons, which implies that they'll be used, which is further militarization of our streets. That is scary. I mean, if it wasn't scary already, it's definitely scary now. Not to mention we have concentration camps going up everywhere. This is not normal. This is terrifying. I just wanted to emphasize that. I am trying to scare people a bit because it is scary. And yeah, maybe it's a bit of self-preservation on my part. I am part of a minority group that would probably not get on the good end of this if this does happen, if things went even further south. But please just be aware of this. This is why we need major changes. Okay. Yeah, Alyssa, I am your retribution. He did say that. Okay. So, folks, if we get 2 more super chats, I will put on the Jester hat. I mean, I'm sorry, the Jester collar. Um, you just got done with finals. How do you think they went there, Luke? I will please tell me in chat how they went. Okay, finals are a very stressful time for both students and teachers. I will say so. Let me know how those went. Okay. All right, guys. So what I would like to do now, after I sort of covered that little bit of news there, let's go. I'm going to go to the reaction section of our Discord. I'll see what there is to react to today. I saw a lot of good stuff in there earlier. So let me see what I can do. If anyone else wants to recommend anything for me to react to, you can go to our Discord page, go to the reaction section and post it there, and I will take a look at it. Okay, so let me go back here to my, let's go back to Discord. Okay, reactions, let's see what we got here. We got some good stuff. Oh my goodness, so many good things. Wow. Okay, Banana Republics. Oh, we could do Banana Republics. You know, is Tiago still in chat? Tiago still in chat? Because I can do a little thing here on Banana Republics. Thank you, Plant Sunshine, for the super chat, folks. One more, and I will put on the Jester caller. Thank you. Welcome back, Plant Sunshine. So how about we do this? I like this. I think I'll be able to watch this on stream. Let me see how long that is. Who posted that? Let's see here. That was Tiago. Okay, thank you, Tiago. Okay. Banana Republics. I will react to that right now, Tiago. If you're there, please tell me you're there so that you don't yell at me later. And I know you will. Okay, so let me open this up. So this is a video. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm just going through the. I'm getting through the ad, and then I will move it over, and we can watch it. Okay, only 6 minutes. Perfect. So we talked, folks, about. I don't think I've ever seen this channel before. This looks good. Okay. We've talked about how the United States has a history of overthrowing democratically elected governments and installing dictators, resulting in mass death and such. This video is called The Banana Republics. The word Banana Republic coming from Guatemala/Honduras, and our attempts to overthrow governments there, to install people that'd be more pro-American business. So let's take a look at that. I know, Tiago. I got it, though. So we'll have it up here. Let me make sure that the audio is correct for this. Application audio. This looks good. I think I've heard of this guy before, but I don't really know. Okay, here we go. Okay, guys. So let's watch this together. I don't know if I've ever seen this channel before, but we shall see. Okay, let's go. See how he does.
Hey kids, do you like fashionable, high-quality apparel at an affordable price? Well, too bad, because that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to learn you all a thing or two about the real Banana Republics.
Guys, is that too loud? To me, it sounds a bit too loud. I'm going to speed it up a bit first of all. If that's too loud, let me know. It's like destroying my eardrums. Maybe I'm wrong here. Should I, Tiago? Okay. It's good. Okay, we'll keep it that way. All right. Let's go. Oh, first, let me see what Luke has to say here. I think pretty good. I had finals from organic chemistry. I finished cellular and molecular biology earlier. I pulled off an A. Oh my God, good job, Luke. Everyone congratulate Luke there. Those are not easy courses at all, especially OChem. I mean, I'm sorry, not OChem. The cellular and molecular biology, not easy. I'm hoping to get a B minus. Hey, that's a good grade for that class, Luke. Very proud of you there. Great job. Okay, okay. Let's see, folks. I need more gain. You say? I don't know. Well, how about this? I'm gonna watch it and then I'll try to pause it when I chat. Okay, here we go.
Our story begins during the turn of the 20th century in Central and South America. Agriculture's kind of a big deal right now. You've got a ton of little plantations all over the place growing bananas, sugar, pineapples, that kind of thing. And they're doing alright for themselves, no big deal. But then refrigeration happened and it changed everything. Because now produce could be kept fresh for way longer in transit, meaning the fruit companies could suddenly open up their business to the international market, their biggest new trade partner being the United States. This massive opportunity gave rise to
If I may, folks, when you go to the grocery store, you'll notice that bananas are almost always very, very inexpensive. And I love bananas, but this video will probably make you understand why they're so inexpensive because of all the wars the United States has waged to keep them inexpensive. I'm kind of oversimplifying, but you'll see one of the reasons they're so inexpensive. Okay, we'll take a look here. Oh yeah, exactly. So it's Chiquita now. Hopefully we'll talk about it. The United Fruit Company is now Chiquita. So whenever you see that little Chiquita, well, I don't want to give it away. He'll probably talk about it. Let's go.
three main companies, known as the United Fruit Company, Coyamel Fruit Company, and the Vaccaro Bros. By growing, shipping, and selling fruit, these three firms made just obscene amounts of money, a lot of which went towards buying out smaller family-owned farms and plantations. This allowed them to make even obscener amounts of money, until eventually the only competition that remained was each other. And then shit got real. The year is 1910.
There we go. Okay, sorry guys. They were paying them very low wages. It was very violent kind of work. So just be aware of that. Okay, massive abuses. He'll probably talk about it. And this was around 1910. It's about what we're about to talk about happening.
One of the companies I mentioned, Coyamel, was doing most of its business in the country of Honduras, when the president of Honduras, Miguel Davila, decided to give a land grant to the Vaccaro Bros in exchange for helping to build some roadways. In doing so, they basically stole a bunch of Coyamel's potential plantations and gave them to a competitor. So Samuel Zamuri, owner of Coyamel, said to himself, dang, I hate those guys. If only there was some way for a guy like me to significantly influence the world around him for his own personal gain. Wait a minute, so
that is sort of what do you think an enterprise like that'll do? If they can, their goal is profit. So of course they will do everything they can, including very inhumane things, just for the benefit of profit. That should be expected. And I think all of you living in the US and around the world probably know that by now, okay? Corporation, big entities like that will do whatever they need to for profit, okay? So let's see what ends up happening.
He used a portion of his McDuck-esque fortune to hire a mercenary army, which he gave to one of his friends, former Honduras.
Remember, folks, I talked about during the Battle of Blair Mountain, the mining company there actually hired mercenaries. They hired planes to bomb the miners. This is not unprecedented. Corporations will sometimes hire not vigilantes, but mercenaries to fight their workers if they need to. They will use violence. Hey, welcome, Real Life Cat DJ. Welcome. This is not So this is not Dole Real Life Cat DJ. That's another thing we could talk about. This is United Fruit Company, which I think is today's Chiquita. Okay, here we go.
And President Manuel Bonilla, and together they overthrew the entire fucking government of Honduras. Yeah. Should have called it Coyamel. Anyway, Bonilla took power and gave very generous concessions to Coyamel and United as thanks. But then America saw this, and they were like, hey, that's not very freedom of you, young man. To which Zemmour replied, it's okay, we're gonna help this country succeed. After all, politics and business are essentially the same thing. While I suppose it's not our place to be policing the governments of other nations, yet, still though, maybe. Oh, also... Nanners. All right, I'm sold. Do what you want. So,
yeah, I mean, the United States was kind of already doing a bit of policing. This was not. Yeah, they definitely were, but I get what he's saying. The policing hadn't become nearly as extreme as it was later. But yeah, we already have been doing some quote unquote global policing. Look up the Monroe Doctrine if you're interested.
With their interests secured, the businesses continued to thrive and expand. But since they got cut so many breaks by the government, very little of their commerce actually ended up benefiting Honduras as a whole. In fact, the national debt of Honduras got so bad that the government ended up not being able to perform a lot of its functions. Yep. So in response, the three fruit companies stepped in and said, no worries, we got this, and decided to basically build the nation's infrastructure for them, including roads, railways, shipping lines, telegraphs, telephone lines, radio towers. They even switched the whole country off to the US dollar. Keep in mind, this wasn't out of the goodness of their hearts. It was mostly just to make their own businesses function more efficiently, but it was helpful either way. Anyway, now, not only did they have total power over their plantations, but also a monopoly over nearly every major industry in the country. Many other Central American nations soon followed this pattern, creating a corrupt sort of symbiosis whereby the fruit companies get huge tax breaks and land grants in exchange for a modernized infrastructure and payoffs to the rich minority. And so, the banana republics were born. Sounds like a pretty sweet gig, right? And it was. For the upper 5% of the populations who happen to hold some direct share in the plantation.
This is a natural result of unregulated capitalist enterprise. You see massive wealth inequality, just like you are here in the United States. Corporations will occasionally do things like build infrastructure and things like that, but that's only really for their own benefit and sort of has a side effect maybe of helping the populace, but that's not the purpose behind it, and there are much better ways to do that.
Or shipping lines. For your average Jose, though, life mostly consisted of working on land that wasn't even theirs in exchange for dirt poor wages. So that's how things were for like a decade and a half. At some point, Coyamel was bought out by United, but then Zamore became the owner of the whole thing somehow, and the Vaccaro company was renamed to Standard Fruit. Then one day, in 1944, the country of Guatemala had a democratic revolution, and the newly elected leader, Juan José Arevalo, wasn't happy with how the companies treated his people. So he implemented several reforms, like a minimum wage law and universal suffrage.
Communism! Oh no, we can't have the socialist and the communist. He's a communist. He thinks that the people should decide what happens to their own land. Oh, God. You see where this is going, I'm sure.
And while the populace got a lot of benefit out of this, United Fruit most certainly did not, because more rights for their workers means less profits for the business as a whole. Then Guatemala got a new president, Jacobo Arbenz, and he continued these reforms. And United continued to get the metaphorical
hero based. I love Arbenz. Look him up. Great guy. Great guy.
Shaft until finally, in 1953, they decided to go to the USA for help. Oh, Eisenhower. Yo, what's up? This Jacobo guy, he's making us pay minimum wages. Well, that doesn't sound very good for business. That's not all, though. He's also taking our unused land and giving it back to the people. Does that sound familiar? Oh, dear. You don't...
By the way, folks, just to emphasize that point, remember, this was unused land. So the corporate entities there, United Fruit Company and stuff, the land that Arbenz was giving back to the poor peasants of Guatemala was actually land that was not being cultivated for banana production. It was land that the company owned that was not being used. So he wasn't even taking I guess you could say cultivated land, but still can't allow that. That's communism or socialism, whatever it may be. Okay.
By the way it's looking, Dwight, I'd say he's a dirty, oh god, collectivizing. No. Commie.
There we go.
Commie! Yeah, go get him, Dwight. Holy shit, you actually did it. World Star! And from that point onward, Guatemala was ruled by a series of US-backed dictatorships, all the way up until 1996.
That's really dark. I appreciate the channel, but that's a bit too cutesy for what happened, okay? Very dark.
This kind of situation happened in several other places and times as well, almost always driven by some combination of red fear and yellow love. I won't give any more details for the sake of time, but that doesn't mean they weren't big deals. So you might be wondering, where did these companies go? Surely the Clan of Banana Shenanigans can't still be around today. Well, that's where you're wrong. They're still in operation, just under different names. Standard Fruit changed their name in 1991 to become none other than Dole Food Company.
Oh, you know what? Real Life Cat DJ, you were right. That is Dole. My apologies, Real Life Cat DJ. I should always trust what you say. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Thiago. Humor is a way to deal with difficult things, but yeah, sorry, maybe I'm just being overly sensitive about it. It's kind of horrific. But yeah, I understand what you mean.
When I was a kid, I used to play a lot of Super Monkey Ball, and I used to wonder what kind of cruel tyrant would just stick an ape in a ball for their own amusement. Well, now I know. Those bastards. As for United, one day in 1976, their CEO decided he couldn't take the heat anymore, so he jumped out the fucking window. That's a real thing, look it up.
Yeah, he literally did. He committed suicide. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that on stream. He unalived himself. No tears shed here.
Some other guy bought the company and renamed it to, drumroll please, Chiquita Banana. That's right.
Oh, I guess it was Dole and Chiquita. Okay, so I guess we were all right. RBP 1973. I am on disability and I am so scared of what's to come. RPB. I am so sorry. Yeah. I wish I could say something to, give you some feeling of hope, but I understand that. We're not in a good situation. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the face you once knew as an innocent, fun-loving dancer/fruit merchant is actually a ruthless tyrant who overthrows democracies and undermines basic human rights for her own profit. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Thiago, thank you. That was a really good video. Yeah, so folks, that's what I'm saying. Next time you go to the grocery store and you buy anything from Dole, okay, just remember, okay, this, all right? Dole has a lot of products. It'll probably be very hard to avoid buying them, or same thing with Chiquita. But that is one of the reasons why bananas are so inexpensive in grocery stores, is because we launched bloody coups to help protect them so that they would be able to keep all their profits and stuff in Latin America. Okay. So yeah, that's A really good video, very much like it and approve. By the way, some of those right-wing regimes that we propped up and still somewhat do prop up in Latin America, they also engaged in genocide against indigenous Mayan peoples, and there's still mass graves being uncovered from those incidents. So, God bless America, the country that brings liberty and democracy to all, and mass graves. Just a side note there. Okay. Let's see what else we have in Discord. Thank you, Tiago. I'm sorry I didn't watch that sooner. I know you bribed me for it, but okay. Das Pom hero or hypocrite? Mark Maron versus Joe Rogan, the comedian political war for culture. That looks good. Before I watch that one, Salmon Forest. Well, let me see what else we got here. Fantasies of Nuremberg, fascist. I'm going to watch this one first. Alyssa posted a good one here. Let me see. The new aesthetic. Oh, I like the sound of that. I mean, I don't like the sound of the new aesthetics of fascism, but I like the sound of the video. Let's watch this. This kind of goes. Oh, it's 42 minutes long. Maybe just for now, we'll hold off on that. Then give me a second here. But Alyssa, I'll definitely react to it at some point. Taylor Lorenz. Let's react to Oz's video. Don't worry if I know I've skipped some folk, but don't worry, I will eventually watch them. But I'm see what Taylor Lorenz has to say. I've heard that name before. What would someone just let me know who's Taylor Lorenz? Someone in chat. Is there
What if
drama?
you can create your own website by saying, "This is what I want"?
Give me
With
a second.
Wix, you can.
Wherever you.
Okay. Let me make sure we attach it to here. Here, I'll do this real fast. Audio application. Here, landlord might be spying on you. I would not be surprised. That sounds like very much like a landlordy thing to do. There we go. Okay, let me see in the chat here. Do we know who's Taylor Lorenz? Okay, Fox Emblem. I will go back to that then. Okay. I'll watch it. How about I'll do that one after this one? Okay. I know it's a longer one, but thank you, Macy, for the super chat. Tech bros want brains, banana labor. There you go, J6, 100%, Macy. Folks, one more, and I'll put on the Jester collar. Thank you, everyone who's donated so far. One more, and I will put on the Jester collar. I believe it. It looks really good. I'm just going to do a few little short ones first, or shorter ones. This one's 35 minutes. Okay, you know what? We'll just go watch the other one, the other one first. Just to be fair, since I did see it first, because that one is long too. So we'll just do where did I see it? The Fantasies of Nuremberg. Is that the one that we said we would do? We'll do that. We'll do Fantasies of Nuremberg. Was that Alyssa too? Okay. Fantasies of Nuremberg. Okay. Since I don't want to feel bad skipping if they're all going to be longer one anyway. So we'll go to the Fantasy of Nuremberg. I'll put it on 1.5 times speed to make it go a little faster for everyone. All right. Okay, we'll do this. So okay, audio capture, boop-a-doo. Make sure we got Fantasy of Nuremberg. Okay. All right, guys. So let's watch this one. I'm excited. I don't know who this creator is, but it looks kind of fun. Where did I put this? Give me a second here. Where's that? Where did I put my stream? There it is. Okay. All right, guys. So let's go. Is that true, Real Life Cat DJ? Okay, we'll definitely watch Taylor Lorenz here, perhaps after this. Okay, let's go. This is Fantasies of Nuremberg. I don't know what it's about. I love Nuremberg, though. I mean, I love the Nuremberg Trials. Yeah. It was kind of a kangaroo court. I don't care. It was executing fascists. I don't really mind. Okay, anyway. Okay, let's go.
The most famous trials were those held in
Nuremberg. It's the 14th largest city in Germany. It has a reconstructed 1,000-year-old castle, some lovely-looking canals, a number of fine dining options. But recently, when I've looked at a person presiding over an act of unimaginable cruelty...
Sorry, I need to quickly go to 1.5 times speed. All right. There we go.
...and thought, they need to be Nuremberg. I'm not referring to a Bavarian vacation. This is not a thought I'm particularly happy about having. It's not a historically informed thought, really. Almost more of a kick, an impulse. I see something.
Folks, we should start making we'll probably get watched by the FBI. We should have a Discord channel where our Nuremberg list, people that should be put on trial for war crimes and such. George W. Bush, John Bolton, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. I mean, there's a lot there. We should totally make Benjamin Netanyahu. We should definitely make a list in Discord of who we think should be Nuremberged.
Some decision made, some photo op performed that seems motivated by such vicious inhumanity that my brain reeling searches back to find some instance, any instance of political justice, of punishment, of consequence, of someone not getting away with it. And in that semi-staggered state, I latched onto Nuremberg, specifically the Nuremberg Trials after World War II.
No, you're right. Let's
it's
not
a historical
do it.
event I knew very little about. I only really knew the
FBI coming after
us. A bunch of Nazis are put on trial for their crimes against humanity. A bunch of Nazis are found guilty. A bunch of Nazis get hanged. In a way, the haziness of my understanding helped make this an appealing target to point to without getting bogged down in facts and details. Nuremberg could just exist.
Yeah, that's fair. I got a little too excited. Let's not make that list. Okay, that would be probably put us on a list if we did that. Maybe you can make it in private though if you'd like. Okay. Of course they would get a trial. I'm not saying it'd be summary, whatever executions or whatever. Okay. Anyway,
idea to me, an actual representation of that elusive feeling of justice. I can even brush aside its obvious contradictions with my own ideology, including the fact that I am notably opposed to capital punishment. By leaving it so uninvestigated, Nuremberg remained a fantasy, a vague notion that one day history's villains will be held to task for the monsters they create.
Forward, yeah.
But historical fantasies are no place to take refuge in. Some loose sense of prior justice serves no purpose without a deeper understanding. And so, over the past several months, I have read and read and read about the Nuremberg Trials. I've read contemporaneous reporting and modern retrospectives. Over this period, I've been a really fun guy to spend time with and had really normal conversations. And on the other side,
oh God, that's what I was like when I was studying fascism. Not a great guy to be around. Not a great guy to have fun conversations with. Yeah, I definitely feel him there.
Research. The Nuremberg Trials no longer exist as a fantasy to me. They are an immensely complicated historical phenomena, quite impressive in some ways, and yet deeply flawed in many others. At the conclusion of his tome, Nuremberg, Infamy on Trial, Joseph Persico adapts a quote by scientist Thomas Huxley. The example of Nuremberg, Persico writes, was a beautiful idea murdered by a gang of ugly facts. It's a striking note to leave us on. Which parts of the idea were
I don't know,
beautiful?
London, you may not
Do
have
those
liked
facts
that.
puncture its concept or, forgive me, its execution?
With my
bloodshot
eyes.
And in 2025, what does it mean to yearn for Nuremberg?
Oof, I feel that, yearning for Nuremberg. Yeah, Luke, it's a really good point. The whole point of Nuremberg was to try and make sure it didn't happen again, but boy, does it keep happening. And we keep letting war criminals get away with everything. Yeah, in the United States and elsewhere, the principles of Nuremberg are not being applied universally, 100%.
Nuremberg's history within World War II started far before the trials. Beginning in 1923, the city was home to the Nuremberg rallies, massive campaign and propaganda events for the Nazi Party. It was in Nuremberg that Leni Riefenstahl filmed Triumph of the Will, one of the most famous propaganda films.
By the way, folks, Leni Riefenstahl, okay, brilliant propagandist, horrible human being. You should, if you ever have a chance, you can probably find the whole thing on YouTube. You probably want to avoid the comment section because it's like a wash with Nazis. But Triumph of the Will was this big propaganda film she made in Germany. I recommend everyone watch it. Why? Because it is extremely boring. It has tons of footage of marching people, and that's kind of the point. Maybe we'll talk. I'll do a review of it sometime. It very much captures the fascist spirit. Okay. Anyway,
of all time. It was during one of these rallies that the Nazis passed the Nuremberg laws, which stripped Jews, shortly after blacks and Romani, of their rights and declared each group enemies of the race-based state. The Nazis chose Nuremberg to begin with as part of their historical myth-making effort. The city had previously been a crucial part of the Holy Roman Empire, a gathering place for the Reichstag.
Remember, folks, I said that Roger Griffin was saying that fascists tend to develop a sort of historical myth of a better past, and it's almost always a myth. Nazis did the same thing. Okay.
And even pre-World War II carried out several pogroms against its Jewish population. On the back of this history, the Nazis promised to build Germany's greatest empire. Oops. Instead, the city was blown to bits. During the war, the Allies dropped thousands upon thousands of bombs on Nuremberg. In a survey afterwards, the U.S. described the city as 91% destroyed. It literally stank from thousands of bodies trapped beneath the rubble.
Yeah.
But in a feat of great historical irony...
As a matter of fact, folks, this is for the German folks in chat. I really shouldn't have said... Okay, so... as a matter of fact, I think it was Hamburg. The Allies dropped so many bombs on Hamburg that it caused a massive fire cyclone. There was a massive tornado of fire sucking in oxygen in the middle of the city, and it literally sucked civilian. Like people were just being sucked into it because of all the oxygen. Um, this is complicated. I probably shouldn't have said based. There were a lot of civilians that died. I know it was a fascist regime. This is complicated. You all can have your own opinions on it, okay?
Building still standing was Nuremberg's massive courthouse and its attached jail. A courthouse, a site of supposed justice among the ruins. The city had provided the infrastructure for the next chapter of its history. That's not to say everyone agreed that the Nazis should be given a formal trial. FDR and Churchill had both, at different points in time, leaned towards immediate summary executions of Nazi leaders. Henry Morgenthau, the U.S.'s Treasury Secretary, suggested, in addition to shooting leaders on sight, that they exile Nazi Party members a la Napoleon while using POWs to completely strip Germany of its industry and return it to an agrarian society. And if nothing else, why not at least try the Nazis outside of Germany? Luxembourg, for example, could host the trials, a neutral territory not shattered by aerial bombing nor clouded by the stench of death. But eventually, the US, UK, France, and the Soviet Union agreed the answer would be trials, they would be legitimate, and they would be in Germany. The chief American...
So again, yes, they agreed they would be legitimate. Let's be honest, though, it was a little bit of a kangaroo court. I support absolutely what they were trying to do there, but it was sort of the victors putting the losers on trial. That doesn't mean they didn't deserve it and that they didn't deserve to be imprisoned and things like that. It's just a little bit off to say. Maybe he'll say that they weren't fully legitimate. That being said, I support it completely.
Prosecutor Robert Jackson felt that German criminality must be tried in its home country. He said that it was massively significant that 4 great nations, flushed with victory and stung with injury, stay the hand of vengeance and voluntarily submit their captive enemies to the judgment of the law. Many also hoped that the trials would reveal the scale of the Nazi horrors to both the German people and the world. Telford Taylor, an American prosecutor, envisioned the trials as classrooms which would quash any German political or cultural tendencies to whitewash the Third Reich. This idea of a classroom, while not as broadly retributive as returning Germany to an agrarian society, still raises one of the most important questions of the trials. That is, were they just for show? A classroom seems to represent a predetermined outcome, not an even balance of power. Also not representative of an even balance of power, the victor of a war occupying the loser's country.
Good. See, he is covering it. Okay, I support that.
This was one of the biggest criticisms of the trials, both while they happened and in the decades since. How could they possibly be fair? Would this just be a show trial, essentially a punishment levied against the Germans for losing the war? But in all my research, what's continually surprised me is the overwhelming fairness, borderline leniency, that the Nazi defendants were treated with. In the first and most famous of the Nuremberg trials, 24 men were charged by the newly formed International Military Tribunal, or IMT. Each defendant was allowed to choose his own lawyer. The IMT, in fact, paid for these lawyers, who were often themselves Nazis. The lawyers were given complete access to the prosecutor's documents, much as they would be in a typical domestic trial, as well as secretaries, stenographers, translation services, and virtually unlimited time with their clients. One aide remarked that they wished the average defendant in an American court had access to the type of assistance given to the Nazis. In court, the Nazis were allowed to enter virtually any material as defense, including thousands of pages of philosophy that had to be translated for everyone in the court. Prosecutors were prevented from cutting off the defendants' responses, turning what should have been hard-hitting interrogations into opportunities for the Nazis to wax rhapsodic about their lives and virtues. Each defendant was allowed hours, even days, to regale the court with their own life stories. And at the end of the trial, multiple men were fully acquitted. The larger issue with the trials, from a legal standpoint, wasn't how the defendants were treated, it was the trial's very premise. No matter the defense resources given to the Nazis on trial, the fact remained that the categories of crimes the defendants were charged with, including crimes against peace and crimes against humanity, were
by the way, first time that these, exactly, they were created. These are the first times these were used in court. Crimes against humanity, things like that. Really interesting legal innovation there
for the Nuremberg trials. Some argued it was unfair to retroactively charge the Nazis with newly created laws. There are a couple counters to this claim, though. Germany had previously signed several international pacts outlawing war, treaties from The Hague and Geneva about the rules of warfare, and peace agreements with Poland and the Soviet Union.
Luke,
this was where the charge of crimes against peace came from, as well as the definitions of the many war crimes committed by the German army. Crimes against humanity was not drawn from previously agreed upon treaties, however. It is a category at once more legally tenuous and more morally obvious. The IMT defined crimes against humanity as the, and I quote, murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, and other inhumane acts committed against any civilian population.
Gaza. Murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, and other inhumane acts committed against any civilian population. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Or persecutions on political, racial, or religious grounds qualified as crimes against humanity, quote, whether or not in violation of the domestic law of the country where perpetrated. The IMT stated that even if technically legal within a country, these horrors could not be allowed. In a refreshing break from legalese, Prosecutor Jackson said, let's not be derailed by legal hair splitters. Aren't murder, torture, and enslavement crimes recognized by all civilized people? What we propose is to punish acts which have been regarded as criminal since the time of Cain and have been so written in every civilized code. There's a sense of natural law in this explanation, of some things being so base and self-evident that they needn't to be spelled out for us to know them. It's an easy idea to understand. As Jackson said, regarded as criminal since the time of Cain. It is the innate gut reflex of morality that there are actions that cannot be allowed no matter the letter of the law. And yet, this was a fraught concept to introduce to a court in 1945. The Allies had, of course, killed many civilians over the course of World War II. The trials took place in a city still stinking from people buried under the rubble. Before the end of the year, Americans would drop the largest bombs ever created on urban centers. Moreover, many other crimes against humanity perpetrated by the members of the IMT were still within living memory, including British colonialism and the American racial hierarchy that had explicitly inspired Nazi eugenics.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, during the trials, folks, the defense teams for the Nazis would sometimes quote American law to sort of make the point, like, wait a minute, why are you putting these guys on trial when your own laws have real stink of Nazism in them? Your eugenics laws, your racial hierarchy laws. But because this was a case of victors and the defeated, of course, Americans were not put on trial.
The solution to this problem within Nuremberg was blunt. The IMT decided the trials would not allow tu quoque or what about you defenses. The Nazis on trial would not be allowed to say, well, you did this too, as justification for their actions. It makes sense as a kind of legal necessity. Jackson pointed out that it implied if some murderers go free, all must go free. But that particular defense being barred from court was also a tacit admission in the fallibility of the prosecuting countries. If said countries had recognized civilian torture, slavery, murder, and deportation as criminal since the time of Cain, why was it so easy to tu quoque them in the first place?
Yeah.
I guess let's talk about who was in that first most notable trial. Or maybe we'll talk about who wasn't there. The award for the most notable missing guest would probably go to Adolf Hitler.
One thing here too, folks, there were multiple trials. I'm sure you'll talk about this. We tend to think of like only the top Nazis being put on trial. But it was like, yeah. Oh, you did, Drusilla? That's interesting. Yeah, Buck v. Bell. Luke, you seem to be quite the academic, very knowledgeable about this stuff. That's great. Yeah, our eugenics programs were horrific. But there were multiple trials. There was like the top Nazi officials. That's what people tend to think about. There was also like a Nazi scientist trial, Nazi doctor's trial, things like that. So there were a lot of lower down trials as well.
Who rinsed out his head with a bullet earlier in 1945. Also absent, head of the SS Himmler and chief propagandist Goebbels, who had followed their leader by offing themselves, and Holocaust architect Adolf Eichmann, who had temporarily escaped to Argentina. Yeah. Finally, two of the men originally intended to be tried at Nuremberg, Leonardo Conti and Robert Ley, managed to kill themselves in jail before the trials.
What a shame.
The problem of captured Nazis killing themselves was treated seriously. The IMT was determined to create a suicideless jail. Every defendant was watched around the clock, guards in the jails instructed to literally never take their eyes off the prisoners. And yet, they failed in this task.
A lot of these top Nazi people, they actually had cyanide capsules that they could put on their teeth to be hidden, and so they could just break those capsules and unalive themselves that way. So it was very hard to sort of keep a lot of these folks from unaliving themselves. Okay, agreed, Luke. Cowards, absolute cowards. Like it's like, come on, what, you can't stand up for what you believe? I mean, weren't you dedicated fascists? So why don't you stand trial if you think you were such a great person or whatever?
More than once. This failure prompts strange questions about the very notion of justice sought by the IMT. Wasn't the end result of this trial the execution of a bunch of Nazis? Is it such a failure that multiple of them skipped straight to the finale? Oh yes, because the trials were not summary executions, and the goal was not simply a dead Nazi. In an ideal world, the trials would end with true admissions of guilt. The prosecutor having perfectly proven the crimes of each defendant, the Nazis would be forced to face a mirror and recognize the monstrosity of their participation in the Reich. Suicide within a jail cell made that admission impossible. But if what you wanted was self-reflection by the Nazis, you weren't likely to find a lot of satisfaction in the trials anyway. 22 of those first slate of defendants lived long enough to make it to trial. Some were politicians or ministers, some were military leaders, and some were just prominent members of the party. It was an interesting batch. Their varied positions meant that multiple types of guilt were up for debate. Fritz Sockel, for instance, who was in charge of deporting millions of civilians from German-occupied territories for forced labor, held a different kind of guilt.
Hans Frank, absolute monster, one of the worst. Thank you, Macy. Okay, folks, we finally have 5 super chats. I will put on the Jester caller. Thank you, Macy. Please watch Burb and Bougie talk about USA Baby Factory. Oh, gladly, Macy. That sounds lovely. Okay, let me put on the Jester caller. This is perfect because we're kind of talking about people who had power. There we go. That feels better. I feel naked without my Jester gear on. There we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Don't ask. Yeah, real life cat DJ. Don't ask what happened to East Asians in the U.S. during that time. Right, the concentration camps we set up for the Japanese in the United States. Yeah, of course we weren't. No one in the United States was put on trial because we were the victors, so couldn't do that.
Than Julius Streicher, who didn't directly exert force over people, but instead published the blindingly anti-Semitic newspaper Der Stürmer, a vital tool in the Nazis' dehumanization of the Jews. Inevitably, the Nazis would argue that their particular position should exempt them from guilt and responsibility. Selkow would argue that he was merely providing workers, that he couldn't be responsible for the slave labor the civilians he deported were forced to do. Streicher would argue, he would argue that all the rancid propaganda he published
Streicher, monster, also horrific monster. Yeah.
It was true that it wasn't fair for his judges to be Jews, but also that he was powerless to Hitler's power of hypnotic suggestion. Hitler, in absentia, was blamed for virtually every decision made by every defendant. And
weirdly enough, so that's obviously bullshit that Streicher was blaming Hitler. I will say, though, Hitler did almost have a hypnotic kind of charisma. Many people talked about it at the time, and this is before the Nuremberg Trials. He was very charismatic and had a way of like deeply looking into a person's soul when he was talking to them. Again, not an excuse for what they did, but it's sort of an interesting, because I've seen that a lot in documents. But yeah, a very bizarre kind of guy.
1946, Janet Flanner wrote for The New Yorker, quote, "Hitler's absence from the courtroom has been scarcely less troubling than his presence would have been. Absent, he has been, in a sense, both the murderer and the murdered. He has been the alibi and the corpse."
So I have a hot take. AI is not just a buzzword if you use Monday CRM.
So Luke,
I'm so glad.
Luke makes a good point here. The Japanese, by the way, folks, during the war killed probably about as many people as the Nazis did. It's debated by historians, but there were trials out in the East for a lot of the top Japanese leaders. We don't talk about them much, but there's a lot of Japanese folks too. Horrific crimes against people, doing human experiments, massacring. If you look, oh gosh, sometime I'm going to do a stream on the Nanking, the Nanking massacre. One of the worst things I've ever read about. Literally worst things I've ever read about. So, okay.
The decision to bar 2 quoque defenses didn't seem to play a huge role in the trial because almost none of the defendants were interested in actually defending the crimes against humanity of the Reich. They instead breathlessly described how they had no knowledge of the worst crimes, and or they were powerless to stop the crimes, and or they actually had tried to stop the crimes, and or they were good actually, and why were they on trial?
I was just following orders. That's the common excuse.
This is not really an exaggeration. In After Nuremberg, Robert Hutchinson writes about Paul Blobel, a commander of a death squad that killed at least 60,000 people. Hutchinson summarizes his sniveling defense like this. So, in sum, Blobel was forced to serve in the East against his will, much to his anguish, but he never received any illegal orders or committed any illegal acts, and even if he did, which he could not have done, either because of manpower limitations or his own ill health, he would have been completely justified in doing so because of the brutality of the enemy and the dangers to his family if he refused. Flanner, in contemporaneous reporting for the trials, wrote, "It is a fact that the 22 Nazis there helped put millions of people to death, quickly or slowly, by torture, murder, or starvation. But not one of them seemed to want to die for the thing they killed the millions for. Nobody said he would be proud to hang for his belief in the bloodthirsty ideology that cost the millions."
Folks, I'm going to put in a new goal here, just for pause for a second so I can put in the new 5 more super chats. I'll put on the makeup and complete the look. Okay, 2, 3, Jester makeup. All right. All right. Let's go. Okay, guys. Yeah, I set unit 731. I'm going to give you a content warning. I do think people should look up what it was. You won't see some things that you'll have nightmares about, so be careful if you do. I will do a live stream about it sometime. Unit 731, absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. Almost, and yeah, I don't want, yeah, okay.
Their lives. For the 12 years, and especially the last terrible 6, that these men in the box were in power, the world thought that they meant it. Then, as this trial went on, it became clear that they didn't mean anything, except their desire to fight for their skins. There were a few notable exceptions to this trend, what Hutchinson referred to as a psychosis of blamelessness. Hans Frank, a Nazi who served as the governor of occupied Poland during the war, admitted that he took part in the annihilation of the Jews. He said, "I myself have never installed an extermination camp for Jews or promoted the existence of such camps. But if Adolf Hitler personally has laid that dreadful responsibility on his people, then it is mine too."
Classic defense. I'm just following orders. It was Hitler. I'm just following orders. Okay.
1,000 years will pass, and still, Germany's guilt will not have been erased. This is a moment when the actual trial matches my imagination of what it could be. an admission by a war criminal of not just guilt, but shame, a recognition of their complicity as a part of the whole monstrous machine. The dream of any trial, I would imagine, is not just that the judge or the jury holds a guilty defendant responsible, it's that the trial could actually cause the defendant to clearly see their guilt for the first time. Unfortunately, it's hard to say this is what happened with Hans Frank. In his final statement before the verdict, he absolved both himself and Germany.
Honestly, I think that's kind of a useless thing to do. Most of the Nazis were committed Nazis. They didn't believe in any sort of rationalism. It's really hard to convince a fascist that they've done something wrong because, as I've said before, fascism is fundamentally irrationalist. It's about whatever you perceive the world to be is what's reality. There is no actual separate reality. It's only a subjective thing that you kind of come up with.
Of their burden. I said 1,000 years would not suffice to erase the guilt brought upon our people because of Hitler's conduct in this war. Every possible guilt incurred by our nation has already been completely wiped out today, not only by the conduct of our wartime enemies towards our nation, but also by the tremendous mass crimes committed against Germans by Russians, Poles, and Czechs. Not even 4 months later, Frank decided Germany's 1,000 years of guilt had already been completely paid off. Probably the best performance at the trial came from Albert Speer, a Nazi architect promoted to Minister of War Production.
Oh. Hate Albert Speer. Albert Speer kind of got away. Like he was sort of he got like a brief prison sentence, and then like was crying and stuff, claiming that he was just the Minister of Economics and whatever. But he did slave labor. He was a horrific guy, but he wrote a sort of a self-aggrandizing biography that made people kind of sympathize with him. Real bad guy.
During World War II. Speer managed to walk a delicate line on the stand. He was deeply regretful of Germany's actions during the war and dismayed by Hitler's commands. At the same time, he claimed to be completely ignorant of the country's worst atrocities and had no knowledge of what was happening in the camps. Speer deflected his most damning charges with equally exciting stories. Did the court know he once tried to assassinate Hitler? In his final speech, Speer virtually ignored the fact that he was on trial at all and instead delivered a warning to modern civilization. That Hitler's message spread because of the technological innovations of the radio and the telephone. That the next war, with chemical weapons and precisely targeted rockets, would end human civilization. Therefore, he hoped this trial could prevent such wars in the future and establish rules whereby human beings can live together. In Speer's speech, he didn't express regret, shame, or guilt. In fact, he positioned himself as more high-minded, the war having taught him sacred lessons that he was now disseminating to the court. And for Speer, it worked somewhat marvelously. He was charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity, but his sentence was a relatively light imprisonment for 20 years. In Nuremberg and afterwards, he cultivated the idea of having been a good Nazi, one who only wanted the best for Germany.
This is what I was saying.
Martin Kitchen writes, Speer provided a thick coating of whitewash to millions of old Nazis. This was a man who was closer to Hitler than any other, yet who maintained his personal integrity as an apolitical technocrat. If a man so close to Hitler, with such immense power and with close connections to all the leading figures in the Third Reich, was unaware of the mass murder of the European Jews, how could the myriad of lesser figures possibly have known? In truth, Speer did not escape the gallows because of his wisdom and honesty learned through the horrors of war. He escaped because of a far more common Nazi trait, being a fucking liar. Speer, in his own letters, would reveal that he had literally been in the room when Heinrich Himmler announced the plan to exterminate all Jews. He had personally...
A great movie, by the way, is called Conspiracy, and it is literally just a recounting of the Wannsee Conference, where the top Nazis got together and sort of began implementing the final solution. A lot of the scenes in that movie are literally taken directly from documents we have about what was said in those meetings. Highly recommend it. It's called Conspiracy. It is a bit boring, but I promise you, watch it. It really captures the evil of these people, okay?
Ordered the eviction of Jews from their homes in Berlin and profited hugely via the theft of stolen art and property. Albert Speer was photographed in front of the camps. He was smiling. Can you imagine a smile in front of a concentration camp, proud of the machinery, proud of the tracks, the structures, the slave labor? He claimed to not know. They all claimed to not know as the ash filled their lungs and burned their eyes and buried their streets. They smiled in front of them, and they didn't know. They couldn't have known. We didn't know. We couldn't have... Albert Speer was not a well-meaning man.
And by the way, folks, a lot of folks at the time, like Germans, would say, "Well, we didn't know about the concentration camps and stuff." Now, some of the death mass extermination camps were in Poland, so maybe some Germans didn't know about those. But the purpose, especially of the early concentration camps, were as a terror thing. The Nazis wanted people to know about them because that would make you less likely to defy the regime. So it's obviously nonsense that a lot of folks claim that they didn't know about the camps. Okay, sure.
Put in a situation beyond his control. He was an aggressive participant in the worst of the Reich's crimes. His plot to assassinate Hitler was patently absurd. At best, a half-tossed-out idea never acted upon. At worst, and more accurately, a total fabrication cooked up in his jail cell. Some proof of Speer's crimes emerged later, after his sentencing, even after his death in 1981. But much of it, his participation in the camps, for instance, was actually presented as evidence in Nuremberg. It's hard not to wonder if Speer's release from the gallows was because he presented his wartime experience as a proof of his value, his wisdom not compelling despite his closeness to Hitler, but because of it. Or maybe the prosecution was just doing a bad job. This was a consistent source of frustration, both internally and from outside observers. You'd think the prosecution had the easiest job in the world, demonstrating that Nazis carried out crimes against peace, war, and humanity. And yet, they struggled to be compelling. Part of this was due to American prosecutor Jackson's plan to call no witnesses and simply use the Nazis' own documentation against them. This was, intellectually, a compelling strategy. He planned to use this hard evidence to unequivocally prove the guilt of the defendants and reveal the scale of Germany's crimes. The documents he would use as evidence had no chance of courtroom perjury or poor performance under cross-examination, and they were written by the Nazis themselves. But in practice, reading documents doesn't make for an electrifying courtroom, and it gave the Nazis plenty of opportunities to quibble with specifics. Flanner wrote in 1945, "On the whole, our lawyers have succeeded in making the world's most completely planned and horribly melodramatic war dull."
Alyssa, so this is a good point. I'm glad Alyssa brought this up. Alyssa says, reminds me of people smiling in front of alligator Alcatraz. Absolutely. And folks, please understand what I'm about to say, okay? Remember what I just said, that a lot of Germans claimed they didn't know about the camps, even though they probably knew about the camps. And many of them claimed that, well, it wasn't I didn't do it. Okay. We all know about alligator Alcatraz. What are we doing? Are we doing anything to stop it? Like, just something to think about. What will historians say about us, about our generation, about Americans today, when we all knew about alligator Alcatraz, and there are not millions of us out in the streets doing everything we possibly can to end it? Okay. Hey, I'm even blaming myself here. Okay. I have gone to protests. But not like, so just something to think about. What can you do now that we know that there are camps set up in the United States? What are we doing to stop that? All right. And how will historians view it when they analyze this later? Okay.
And incoherent. There were dramatic moments on the stand when the defendants seemed to crumble under overwhelming evidence of their crimes. There were also moments, however, when the prosecution seemed to crumble. This was most evident in dealing with the main character of the first Nuremberg Trials, if there was one, Hermann Göring. The Allies were proud to have nabbed Göring. He was basically the highest-level Nazi leader who hadn't already killed himself. Actually, Göring wasn't captured at all. He turned himself in, alongside many suitcases stuffed with stolen art, and one stuffed with over...
Göring Göring was hilarious, okay? Like, I mean, not really, but he thought that he would be like a superstar. Like, he thought he'd become a celebrity, so he turned himself in and thought like, oh, now the media is going to love me. I'm going to do a cute little interview, and I'll be able, I'm a super... Like, he was so arrogant that he thought that he would be almost rewarded for the crimes he committed. A very Nazi way of thinking.
20,000 paracodeine pills, of which he was taking more than 100 a day.
Okay.
And yet, Göring was also the sharpest, most dangerous defendant of the trial. Not dangerous in that he would physically attack anyone, but in that he was capable of exerting tremendous influence over the other imprisoned Nazis, coordinating strategy and coaching them on their narratives from within jail. The IMT was so fearful of this coordination that they attempted to completely isolate Göring, and yet even from within his cell, he made friends, with the men charged with watching him 24 hours a day, even with the jail physician. Within the court, seemingly everyone turned to Göring for his reaction to every event. Was he satisfied by another defendant's testimony? Was he shaken by the footage of the death camps? When Göring took the stand, he largely bowled over Jackson's cross-examination, using his time instead to narrate the epic course of his own life. Flanner wrote, on the witness stand, he didn't wait to be asked questions by the Allied prosecution, he told them the German answers first. Göring made Machiavelli's prince look like a dull apologist. Göring was decidedly more amoral and funnier. He seemed to be better informed about Europe's history than the prosecutors, more agile in his defense than they were in their attack, more interested in eloquently telling his own personal epic than even really defending himself. Flanner concluded it was the complicated narrative of a brain without a conscience.
Yeah, again, he was also obsessed with being like a celebrity, so he was very like waxing eloquent about himself, trying to make himself appear to be a hero, talking about these grand narratives of things.
Göring, unlike Speer or Stryker, had no doubt he would be executed. Before the trial even started, Göring said he would be willing to testify against many of the other defendants if he could buy himself execution via firing squad instead of the noose. In context of this certainty, his performance at the trial wasn't a plea for mercy, but a continuation of his own personal myth-making, an individual enactment of the fascist dream of an eternal empire. We will be martyrs, Göring said. Even if it takes 50 years, the German people will recognize us as heroes. They'll put our bones in marble caskets in a great national shrine. Of the 22 Nazis tried at the first Nuremberg trials, 10 of them were executed. 7 were given prison sentences, and 3 were fully acquitted. That leaves 2 men unaccounted for. Martin Bormann was tried in absentia and had, unbeknownst to the IMT, actually died earlier that year. The other unaccounted man was Hermann Göring. Göring was very much sentenced to death. Persico writes that it took more time to type the verdict than it did for the court to reach it. There is nothing to be said in mitigation, his judgment read. His guilt is unique in its enormity. But on the day of the scheduled execution, mere hours before 11...
Oh yeah, good question, Drizzle. The one that actually fled to, oh gosh, what was the name? I'm having a mind blank here. Not Martin Bormann. What is his name? The one who fled to Europe because he was a moron, and he thought that he could fly to Europe and end the war for Adolf Hitler's sake. And of course, fly to Britain, and then Britain just captured him. Of course. I can't remember. I can see his face. He had big eyebrows. Can't remember off the top of my head. If anyone in chat knows, let me know.
Men were set to be walked to the gallows. Göring bit into a cyanide capsule in his cell, convulsed, frothed at the mouth, and died. In his suicide note, Göring claims he possessed the pill the whole time. Others theorize he had outside help. In 2005, a 78-year-old former American guard unverifiably confessed to sneaking the pill into Göring's cell. In any case, the suicide was a final denial of the trial's legitimacy. He did not accept guilt, he did not accept shame, and he would not accept the judge's ruling. It is, depending on your perspective, the climax or anticlimax of the trial. Göring outwits the IMT at the last second. Göring sucks the air out of the trial's punchline. Which is kind of ridiculous, right? Because the end result is that he died a few hours earlier than he was supposed to. Göring faced trial, was judged guilty, and died the night he was sentenced to die. Reading about the remaining 10 executions, I personally experienced a sort of deflation, a reminder of what I already knew, that there is no peace or virtue to be found in enacting a death sentence. The 10 Nazis were hung, one at a time, from a gallows built in the Nuremberg Gymnasium. It was done between the hours of 1:30 and 3 o'clock a.m. About 50 people in total were in attendance.
I can't remember which one it was. It may have been no, it wasn't Goering. Who was it? Was it one of the top Nazi defendants while they were on the gallows, about to be? Thank you, Rudolf Hess. Thank you. That's the one. Thank you. Death died today. Rudolf Hess, a Neanderthal of a man, really not bright. Yeah. Okay. I think you're right there. So, as a matter of fact, I forget which one was it. One of the maybe it was Yodel, one of the top Nazi guys. They, right before they get executed, they're allowed to say last words, and he actually he clapped his boots together and said "Heil Hitler" right before he was hung. I mean, just think about these people were not. I mean, they were ideologically absolutely devoted to the very end. Okay, not sad to see them go.
There were no revelations.
Oh my God, it's Jared Kushner, right? Okay. Yeah, no, you're right, Fox Emblem. Unfortunately, they were kind of martyrs for a lot of people. You're right, Macy. Yeah, I shouldn't have dissed Neanderthals. I apologize for that. Yeah, okay.
That day, no necessary truths. Some went to their deaths quietly, some attempted honor. Wilhelm Teitel, the former chief of the Oberkommando, said he would follow all the German soldiers who had died for their fatherland.
Okay,
Stryker,
go ahead.
Of Der
Remember that image I showed you before, folks? Follow your leader, please. I support that. Follow your goddamn leader. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Follow your fellow Nazis into the afterlife. No problem with that. None.
Sturmer, who claimed he had been under Hitler's hypnosis, apparently fell under the dead Führer's spell once again, screaming Heil Hitler and Porum Fest 1946 before dying slowly at the end of the noose. Staff laid Göring's body next to the 10 other corpses. 3:05 a.m. on October 16th, 11 dead Nazis in a gymnasium. Justice served. Let us assume, for the sake of argument, that it was nothing more than misfortune that made you a willing instrument in the organization of mass murder. There still remains the fact that you have carried out and therefore actively supported a policy of mass murder. For politics is not like the nursery. In politics, obedience and support are the same. And just as you supported and carried out a policy of not wanting to share the earth with the Jewish people and the people of a number of other nations, as though you and your superiors had any right to determine who should and who should not inhabit the world, we find that no one, that is no member of the human race, can be expected to
You're right,
share
real life,
the earth
Daddy J.
with you.
That's a good point.
This is the reason, and the only reason, you must hang. The bodies, along with their nooses, were cremated. The ashes were tossed into a river, the urns themselves were smashed. Göring's prediction would not come to pass, at least not literally. There are still no marble caskets, no national shrines, no bones to recover. There are, instead, the thoughts and opinions and memories of the survivors of the war. What do they think? What did Germany think? Reporting is mixed.
I got to tell you, modern day Germany has actually done a very good job of now this is okay. This is more complicated than I'm making it out to be. They've done a very good job of memorializing the Holocaust and making sure the nation has a memory of what happened. I'm sure if there's any Germans in chat, maybe you could tell us. I know as young as kindergarten, these things are talked about. Don't get me wrong, there are things that could be done better, but the memory of this is in modern day Germany has been handled pretty well. Yeah.
Say the least. Obviously, a country's people are not a monolith. Flanner wrote that in her experience, the 1945 German public didn't particularly care about the trials one way or another. They were too shell-shocked from the war, too long flooded by misinformation to believe anything, too sick of hearing about the particular men on trial. She reports, they think the trial is an effort at propaganda rather than justice, a myth they have forgotten about and so no longer believe in. Persico writes that rich German families were eager to describe their mistreatment during the war and denounce the Reich. One never seemed to meet a Nazi in Germany these days, he notes dryly, except for the few in the dock at Nuremberg. Polls, themselves of course a fallible instrument, paint a slightly different picture, one of brief agreement with the actions of the Allies followed by increasing frustration. In 1946, a reported 78% of the population thought of the trials as fair. By 1950, this had dropped 40 full points to a mere 38%. Perhaps more alarming, in 1947, more than half the population said they thought Nazism was, quote, a good idea badly carried out, a proportion that would increase in Germany over the next couple years.
Yeah.
These narratives were encouraged by Nazi sympathizers in America, some of whom held prominent government positions.
Yeah.
Joseph McCarthy, for instance, amplified the idea that these
maybe someday, folks, I'll talk about some of the Nazi sympathizers in America, including Francis Parker Yockey, who I did research on when I was in grad school. Yeah, remember I studied like the Nazi diaspora after the war, how a lot of these ideas kind of spread around. Lots of Nazi sympathizers in America with direct connections to the ideas of the people during the Third Reich. A lot of those ideas we still kind of floating around in America today, and some of them have become mainstream, like the Great Replacement theory and such. So, yeah.
These trials were an example of Jewish vengeance. His Senate colleague, William Langer, declared that the trials were a communist plot designed to seize the property of innocent German bankers and industrialists.
Of course.
And if this was the full arc of the Nuremberg trials, it would be a strange,
shocking, right? Absolutely shocking that these Nazis are scapegoating other people, right? Who could have predicted that? Yeah, it was the fault of the communists. It was the fault of this. It was the fault of that. Right? Okay. Yeah. No sense of self.
The story of the beginnings of international justice. Some men hanged, some men imprisoned, some men freed. A world unsure of what to think. But the stranger story of the Nuremberg trials is that they didn't conclude the day of the hanging. Rather, the international court disbanded, but the trials continued, both within Nuremberg and at Dachau, the concentration camp turned into a massive prosecutorial apparatus. Both of these were held by the US alone, rather than with the cooperation of other Allied countries. The following trials held at Nuremberg tried 185 Nazi leaders. The ones at Dachau tried 1,672 lower-ranking soldiers charged with war crimes. These trials originally handed out a total of 438 death sentences, 207 life sentences, and 868 shorter imprisonments. This is a much larger sentencing over a much larger swath of the Nazi Party, with generally much less attention paid by local or international press. But the real notability is what happened to those sentences. From 1946 to 1951, the U.S. military hanged 252 condemned prisoners at the same prison where the original Nuremberg executions were held. But not only were the remaining 186 death sentences commuted, by 1958, virtually every...
Yep. Let's never forget that. Never forget that the U.S. military commuted a ton of those sentences.
Every other convicted Nazi at the subsequent Nuremberg and Dachau trials, whether sentenced to death, life, or otherwise, walked free. Even of the 7 imprisoned after the original Nuremberg trials, only one, Rudolf Hess, served an actual life sentence in prison. It's hard to find a single reason that explains these commutations. Legally, the courts for these subsequent trials seemed to move away from Nuremberg's most famous determination. While the original trial may have ruled that just following orders didn't absolve anyone of responsibility, the subsequent trials and releases often seem to do just that. Hutchinson writes that this advisory board that determined clemency for German war criminals systematically questioned the parameters of individual guilt or responsibility as established by the tribunals. In other words, the courts decided that maybe it was a reasonable excuse that the Nazis were just following orders.
Yeah. And
so these legal determinations were also perhaps influenced by the larger...
Yes, I was about to say, another one of the things here, folks, is that a lot of the Americans were more afraid of the communist Soviet Union, which was occupying Eastern Germany at the time. And it was sort of like there was sort of this, maybe it was subconscious, probably not, the idea that the Nazis are very anti-communist. These are folks that were anti-communist. They're not the real villains. The real villains are the communists. Okay, so yeah.
Political context of Germany.
And by the way, the United States actually brought several Nazi scientists over to the United States, including the founder of NASA, who was von Braun, who was a Nazi missile scientist. Operation Paperclip brought him over here to work on rockets that we eventually used to get into space. And he was the founder of NASA and lived a happy, long life in the United States after using slave labor and such in Europe to build V2 rockets and such. Again, the Soviet Union, by the way, did the same thing. Took some Nazi scientists back to the Soviet Union, didn't put them on trial. Yeah.
the 50s. Logistically, the US didn't want to be locked into the responsibility of monitoring the sentences of every Nazi imprisoned in Germany. Politically, the next war, the Cold War, was imminent, and the US may have been more interested in building a new allyship with Germany than maintaining the sentences of its war criminals. Ethically, the continued imprisonment of Nazis called into question the purpose of prisons writ large. That is to say, why exactly were the Nazis being held? Was it the risk of recidivism, that once released they would be a danger unto others? That seemed improbable. Their crimes, though performed as individuals, were done as part of a collective. No lone Nazi released free back into Germany was likely to try and rebuild a death camp. So why shouldn't they get out of it for good behavior? Whatever the reasons that prompted the US to so dramatically reduce the sentences of these Nazis, the German public took the news as a referendum on the Nuremberg Trials as a whole. The near-universal commutations suggested that something had gone fundamentally wrong at Nuremberg. It implied that the trials had, in fact, been the vengeance of a conquering country. This was reflected in German public opinion. By 1952, 60% disapproved of the handling of the trials by foreign powers, and only 9% of those surveyed believed that the still imprisoned Nazi generals were, in fact, guilty. The risk of recidivism is not the only reason to imprison war criminals. The more compelling rationale might be as a sort of message to the world. The continued imprisonment of Nazi war criminals could demonstrate that their crimes and crimes of a similar nature must be taken seriously. That there was no situation, not peace or war or economic ruin, that could justify mass deportations, enslavements, or genocide. It is hard to imagine that the way the trials did end, with a limp admission of the logistical difficulty of continuing consequences, sent that same message. While the international community was generally less fascinated by the subsequent trials the US held in Germany, they certainly reacted strongly to its shrug of an ending. All sides of the political spectrum in France, the UK, and the United States were incensed. They called it a complete reversal of a fundamental goal of the Allies. Newspapers said the commutations.
And remember, folks, a government, at least these governments in theory, were supposed to represent the interests of their people. But as always, did they?
Were a treason against the common good. One powerful criticism read, a would-be war criminal of the future need not be discouraged by the Nuremberg trials from indulging in similar genocidal excesses. That retort came from, oh, interesting, the Israeli government. In 1960, 15 years after the first trials, Israeli...
Well, I did not see that turn. Yeah, let's see where this goes.
Agents would go to Argentina and find Adolf Eichmann, one of the Nazi leaders that evaded judgment at Nuremberg.
Yeah.
The agents then abducted him. They captured.
There's a great book, by the way, called "The Man in the Glass Box," where Israeli agents actually abducted him, brought him back to Israel, and put him on trial. And they had him in a glass bulletproof box, so he wouldn't be assassinated during the trial. I actually support that. Totally support that. I don't want to say any positive about that regime at this moment, but I do support that.
Captured him, snuck him through airport security, and put him on a plane to Israel. This was a very clear violation of several UN treaties. At first, Israel absurdly claimed that the abduction had been carried out by unaffiliated volunteers. Later, it admitted Mossad planned the whole operation with the knowledge and support of the Prime Minister. No matter the logistics, once Eichmann was in Israel, the plan was clear. He would stand trial, and he would ultimately hang.
See, there's the
Eichmann
glass box
protested
around
in the
him.
same manner the Nazis had at Nuremberg, that he had not been a decision maker, just a cog in the Nazi machine. He said he didn't have anything personally against the Jews. He didn't have an anti-Semitic bone in his body. It was this trial, in fact, that gave us the most indelible phrase of this whole saga of history, the banality of evil.
Yeah,
it was coined by
Hannah
Holocaust
Arendt.
survivor Hannah
There you
Arendt,
go.
who chronicled Eichmann's trial for The New Yorker. She wrote, Eichmann was not Iago and not Macbeth. Except for an extraordinary diligence in looking out for his personal advancement, he had no motives at all. This banality did not preclude him from overseeing the murder of millions of people. In all likelihood, it enabled it. What did Israel hope to gain from the trial? Admission, guilt, shame? No, I doubt anyone thought they would wring these things from Eichmann. Arendt thought the desire was more base. We refuse and consider as barbaric, she writes, the propositions that a great crime offends nature so that the very earth cries out for vengeance, that evil violates a natural harmony which only retribution can restore. And yet I think it is undeniable that it was precisely on the ground of these long-forgotten propositions that Eichmann was brought to justice to begin with, and that they were, in fact, the supreme justification for the death penalty. This is the feeling that sits in the center of my chest, like a stone, like an anchor, as I watch intolerable cruelty around me.
He really is good at
and
what
fantasize
he's doing
Nuremberg.
here.
That the earth cries out for vengeance, that this cannot just happen and then we move on, that we cannot simply look forward as opposed to looking backward, that we cannot let this go unpunished and thus unacknowledged and thus forgotten. That there must be a consequence, an inchoate scream that echoes around my skull. God, I wish for you hell existed, but it does not. So there must be a consequence. I have this feeling.
For anyone who in the chat that was raised as a Christian, I remember when I was in Catholic school, I actually heard this example used by several theology teachers who would say something along the lines of, even Adolf Hitler could be granted mercy if he accepts Jesus Christ in his heart when he gets to the pearly gates. Now, I don't know about you, but that is why I am not a fan of the idea of like universal mercy or like a God that is infinitely passionate and merciful, because that to me is absolutely immoral. Yeah, just an interesting thought there. Yeah.
Now, I had it reading about Nuremberg. And then when I reached that climactic chapter, their sentence delivered, 10 genocidal necks snapped in a prison, I felt nothing at all. No relief, no less hollow, no natural harmony restored. The earth does not cry out for vengeance. The earth just cries. Did the trials deter anything? If punishment does not heal the soul, and it never, ever does, did the trials at least prevent more crimes against humanity? It is impossible to prove a negative. I can't point to the past 80 years for proof of what didn't happen. But the world did not stop its march of atrocities. I mean, the US alone. In 1990, Noam Chomsky said if the Nuremberg laws were applied, then every post-war American president would have been hanged. In 1990.
I love Noam Chomsky, by the way. I love Noam Chomsky. I had lunch with him once, actually, when I was in Boston. He has a very dark sense of humor. One of the most influential academics of the modern era. Maybe I will put some of his books and stuff into the Discord.
In Germany, Nazism was largely made illegal, though it's hard to attribute this effort to the efficacy of the trials, especially given the note of resignation on which they ended. Nor can one look at Germany today and be proud of the lack of Nazism or its commitment to preventing genocide. Of course, the most irrational thing about yearning for a new Nuremberg is that a trial is necessarily reactive. It punishes a thing that has already happened. The damage has already occurred. If my concern is with humans and not some unmeasurable karmic sense of justice, Nuremberg represents a situation in which the worst possible thing is already a foregone conclusion. In 1945 and today, I'd trade the sentences of every responsible Nazi in return for one fewer civilian death, one family not forever shattered. It's this I try to remind myself of most of all. The point cannot be retribution. The point is to help each other survive.
Right, Real Life Cat DJ. I'm actually, I have his email. I haven't talked to him for years, but maybe I could send him an email, see if he can get him on the stream.
Hello. I've been working on the video you just watched for several months now. If you watched it on YouTube...
Oh my God. See, okay, I'm not even joking. I swear, he looks like I looked when I was studying fascism. Like, I let my beard grow out, kind of a scruffy look here. The hair is kind of hanging down. Okay, yeah, that's being deep in that stuff. I'm not joking. We'll do that to you, okay? I'm sure you can guess. Very dark stuff to be deeply invested in.
Feeling to work on something for so long while being quite confident it will be restricted in some way. I'm not sure if you had to be 18 to watch this, or maybe anyone can watch it, but I can't make money from ads, or hey, maybe it's totally fine. No one knows for sure what the rules are, but I know that I will never weaken my writing by saying that Hermann Göring unalived himself. I can make these decisions because I have the support of you folks watching this, and also because of Nebula. And also, there's an extra video.
I appreciate it. He puts the ad at the end.
Nebula
that is a good move.
A premium streaming service that provides me make hazelnut praline.
All right. Okay. That was a great video. Was it Alyssa who recommended it? Thank you very much. That was a really good video. Very good. This guy knows how to make a very artistic video. That's also very good research. Okay, folks. Let me see what else we got here. Let's watch another little short one. Let's find a short one to watch here. All right. There's that. I will do the new aesthetics of fascism at a different time when it's not as let's see here. You pay more. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see what we got here. Every American should have to spend a year in active war. Hey, I would support that actually. Let's do this one. I will watch some of this other stuff. Okay, you know what? This looks like a good one. Let me do this one. The Socialist Rifle Association. Let's take a look at this.
I really like shooting guns. It's just, I went shooting one time. I had like a Groupon.
Sorry, it's 28 minutes. I'm just going to try to find a shorter one. We will definitely watch at some point. That looks really interesting. Zapatista. Okay, let's do this one. Our grandparents surviving. Okay, this is like a good one. We'll do this one. This is from Macy.
God, you look so old without makeup. Yes.
Okay, I like this idea. This is not.
God,
this is kind of a topic change here, but it looks interesting to me. Why do people judge women for aging? Is what it is called. We haven't really talked much about gender issues today. Let's do a little gender issue thing here. Let me see here. Okay. Mike. Oh, Mike. So Macy will tell you that Macy has been trying to get me to make a schedule using her spreadsheet. I have not done it yet, but Mike, I will typically stream. Most of the time, I try to start at 12 p.m., but sometime between 12 and 3 p.m. is when I usually stream, and then I will occasionally do a second stream later in the evening. Okay. Yeah, I don't. That's a good point. I think Chomsky may have had a stroke, unfortunately. And I haven't seen him going on any shows or anything. It might be that he doesn't even do that anymore because he is what is in his 90s or 90s now. Brilliant guy. Real sad. I'll be very sad the day he. Well, I don't even want to say that, but you all know what I'm going to say. Okay. Um. Yeah, breed the women. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, listen, I will gladly watch that. I love talking about the aesthetics of fascism because it's very fascinating. That you're right. It's a very long one though. Okay. All right, guys. So let's. I think did I ever tell you about when I met with Chomsky and he was kind of laughing about drone strikes, but like in a dark way. Like he was laughing at Obama launching drone strikes, and he was like, our peace president here, loves to launch drone strikes or something like that. He was a very funny guy. Okay, so let me get this up here. This is just a short here. Let me quickly application audio capture. Make sure we got this. Okay. Okay, let's do this, folks. Again, from Macy. Thank you again, Macy. If we get 5 more super chats, I'll put on the makeup. And let's go.
Old without makeup. Yes, I do. I look old without makeup, and that right there is not allowed to age. But on God, you look so old without makeup. Yes, I do. I look old without makeup, and that right there sums up what it means to be a woman. I'm not allowed to age, but on the other hand, I'm not allowed to cover the appearance of age. I must expose my oldness so that people like you can shame me in front of the.
Yeah, it continuously shocks me how women are treated in a way where they are constantly sort of pressured to not be their natural selves, right? Having to sort of just pressure to put on all these layers of makeup. Like you're not allowed to be a human, you're not allowed to have natural aging, you have to constantly do all these things. And I know, of course, you don't have to, but my point is, there's a lot of pressure on women to do these things. Not as much on men, okay, at all. Anyway.
World for having the audacity to get old. And should I try to do something to disguise those maladies, I'm called a charlatan and a fraud.
By the way, I know she's joking when she says a malady, but folks, it's aging. It's natural. It's a natural human process. People age. I know that might be shocking. They age. So why are we, anyway.
I once read a poem by a man who loved his wife so much, particularly the sorrows of her changing face. I don't have the face I used to because I'm not the woman I was when I was 19 or 26 or even 35. These fine lines, they bear the weight of a 17-year career in law. These crow's feet, they carry the divorce that nearly swept me away. The age spots, well, each one of them holds the finish line of all the marathons I've trained for and completed. Most of the time, I wear my face naked with the understanding the world can accept what this face has had to shoulder over nearly half a century. And sometimes I'll put on a little makeup because it makes me feel festive and pretty in the same way my husband shaves and decorates himself with a crisp button.
By the way, I'm all for let's make men wear makeup again, okay? Like they did in ancient Egypt. I think all men should wear makeup. That'd be kind of fun. I would enjoy that at least, okay? But anyway, I like how she's approaching this. Like, yeah, of course, and wear makeup if it brings you joy, if it's something that, but the social pressures to do it is really kind of gross.
Down shirt. He's never made to feel badly about his age, but for me, it's a no-win situation. And throughout history, those in power often like to trap those without, and these contradictions make them feel there's no way out. But the lie is this, that somehow my face is here to please you. Once I unshackle myself from that big lie, I can walk right out of this trap you've tried to set for me.
I'm sorry, do I even have to say this, folks? Women aren't objects. We all know this. At least I hope we all know this, right? Women are not objects. They're not there for the aesthetic pleasure of men. They're human beings. After watching those videos yesterday, I guess it's much worse than I knew it was bad, but I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Without looking back, my husband once asked me what it is I'm most proud of in my life. And the truth is, the answers to that question are written on my face for anyone who loves me enough to read them. God, you look so old without.
Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you, Macy. Yep. Yeah. Can we just acknowledge, folks? People, everyone's human. Like I'm so sick of. It's something that is continuously causing me distress. We're all human. Treat each other like humans. No one is an object for anyone else. It's okay to go through natural human processes like aging. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Also, what else we got here in the Discord? Let's see if I know the little short one here. Salmon Forest. That looks like. Let me see. How long is this one? Salmon Forest. Let's take a look.
Have you ever wondered why this
8
house
minutes. We'll do
was
this
named
one.
after Nelson Mandela?
Okay, so this is from Salmon Forest. Thank you, Salmon Forest. Let's take a look at what this is. It's called "Who Started the Anti-Apartheid Boycotts in Britain?" Black in Britain. Okay, sounds good to me. Let's take a look. I don't know who this. Who is this? Hyphenated History. I don't think I've ever heard of this person. They only have a few more subscribers than I do. It's a good small channel here. Let's take a look. Let me make sure the sound is up here. Take here a little okay. Who started the anti-apartheid boycotts in Britain? Okay, thank you. Is Salmon here? I think I saw Salmon in here earlier. It's okay if you're just listening, Salmon. I just wanted to see if you were here. Oh no, Salmon Forest, please post as many as possible. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Alyssa, thank you for telling me that. I forgot. That's a good point. So that is one of the contradictions of beauty standards for women, is women can never get it right. What I mean by that is, like, even if women put on makeup, they will then be accused of not being natural enough. And so like you can't win as a woman, right? If you, like, for example, let's say you're in public and you don't speak your mind, people will be like, "Oh, you're too passive. What are you doing?" And then if you do speak your mind, "Oh, she's too loud. She needs to be quiet." It's just a constant thing. The main thing here is, folks, we're all human. Women can make their own decisions. Stop judging them for whatever they decide to do. If they want to wear makeup, let them wear makeup. If they don't want to wear makeup, who cares? It's none of your business. It's just like, Jesus Christ. Mechanism of control, 100%, Macy. Total mechanism of control there. It harkens back to a time where women were viewed as property. Well, apparently, after those videos we watched yesterday, a lot of people still view them as property. Disgusting. Anyway, really, really repulsive. But yeah, yeah, okay. Gross, okay, in many, many ways. All right, let's I'm in a het relationship, but in pan, women hot, laughing my ass off. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Fox Emblem. I mean, I really, women are beautiful, of course. Of course, I being a gay man, I don't want, well, I don't want to say anything like that, but you know what I mean. Okay, I, women are exactly, they're valid and they are queens, 100%. Okay, 100%. Women are valid. They are queens. They deserve much more than our society does for them. Okay. So, all right. Let's watch this. See what Salmon has sent us today.
Mandela. What if I told you some of it traces its steps to a boycott kicked off by black political organising here in Britain? For this specific block of flats in Casnoff Road, Stoke Newington, the story appears to be that it was actually originally named Morley House. And it wasn't just this place, but many up and down the country from as early as the 1960s that were being named as such, until apartheid ended in 1994.
So Macy, sorry, world comment. Macy makes a great comment here. Macy says, "Got called a goddess for having an extra calculator on truth. A man every told." So I gotta this. Okay, yes, I know I'm kind of making a stereotype here, but when I was a teacher, right? Like the women, women who were teachers, like, they always had everything everyone would need, including the male teachers, including me. Now, this is my fault partially, but women often are making up for the deficiencies of men. And please, if you're a man in chat, I'm not saying all men, okay, but a lot of men, like, including me, like, I don't often have all the stuff I need, but there's always seems to be a woman around who is always prepared and always ready to allow me to borrow something if I need it. Again, I'm stereotyping here, but that is absolutely true. Okay. I'm sure you all have mothers. Many of you probably had mothers who had purses and, like, "Oh, mom, can I have a Tylenol? Oh, mom, can I?" Yeah, it's just something just I've noticed. Okay. Yeah, that's so gross, Lee Lane. I've been mostly makeup free my whole life. Many times I've gotten crap about it. You'd be so pretty if you put some makeup on. Yeah, phrases like that and phrases like, uh, okay, that's fair. That's good, Luke. See, again, some men also have these things. I don't mean to stereotype there. Sorry, but Lee Lane, your comment here, you'd be so pretty if you put on some makeup on. Comments like that, comments like, why don't you smile more? Comments, just yeah, okay. The microaggressions faced by women. I know this, folks. I know I'm a man, but like I have a twin sister and we went to the same schools together and stuff and same age, obviously, just different genders, be standing next to each other. And the way you could just see how people would treat her differently than me. I mean, it's blatantly obvious a lot of the time. Okay. Um, okay. Hey, Luke, I got ADHD too. I probably haven't told everyone that, but yeah, I do. I have ADHD, so I totally get that. Always losing stuff, always missing stuff. Yeah, it's an ongoing struggle. Okay, let's go.
So, how did councils back then even end up participating in boycotts against the apartheid government in the first place? In 1958, the progenitor of what would become Britain's most powerful anti-apartheid movement was founded, the Committee of African Organizations, or the CAO. The CAO was a student and worker union and was Pan-Africanist, anti-imperialist and anti-colonial, fighting the struggle for unity and independence. It came about when multiple African and West Indian organizations in Britain merged, among them predominantly students' unions like the West African Students' Union, the Uganda National Congress, the African League, the Nigerian Union of Great Britain and Ireland, the Sierra Leone Students' Union, the South African Freedom Association, and many others. Communist leader Claudia Jones was also a member of the CAO. The CAO
I think you know the answer to that, Luke.
all-African forum for the discussion of matters affecting Africa, as well as to fight for independent African states, to spread among Africans the spirit of Pan-Africanism, and to assist the struggle of our people's freedom.
So, folks, for those who don't know, Pan-Africanism, there's different aspects to the Pan-African movement, but the idea, well, there's two phrases of it. One, that all Africa should unite together as kind of a united African state to resist colonialism. The other idea here is that all African people should work together to liberate their countries from colonial rule. Very influential movement here. One of the reasons why, after World War II, there were so many liberation movements in Africa for African independence was because of the Pan-African movement. There's lots of other stuff that goes into this, but yeah.
For liberty, equality, and national independence. Its objectives were, quote, to cooperate with any organization on issues affecting continental Africa, to keep the conscience of the world alive to the problems affecting Africa, to provide facilities and a network of support for African leaders who visited the UK to press the British government for independence. The CAO lobbied...
Britain, as we've talked before, being a massive colonial power, especially in Africa and around the world. So they were trying to, Black British folks were pushing for the freedom of countries in Africa from British colonialism and imperialism.
British government, writing them and the media multiple letters in protest of the injustices facing Africans across the empire as well as here in its metropole. In 1959, the CAO's representatives were part of a larger delegation who met with the Home Secretary to demand a public inquiry into the racism in this country. That same month, for example, was the month 32-year-old Kelso Cochrane, an Antiguan carpenter, was murdered by white supremacists in Notting Hill, West London. The CAO's boycott subcommittee, chaired by Femi Okunu, became active at this time, and by 1960, only a year later, it had successfully influenced the likes of the TUC and the National Union of Students at Oxford, Cambridge and the LSE, to name but a few of its members, to support or adopt a boycott of South African goods. From that point on, the Labour Party also pledged its support, and after this, from the mid-60s onwards, many councils also began boycotting. 1960 was also the year of the Sharpeville massacre, in which hundreds of people were murdered and many more injured by the police, who had opened fire on a group of unarmed protesters taking a stand against Black Africans being required to...
Yeah, guys, the amount of violence. I'm going to do a stream because I have some people from Africa who watch quite frequently. I'm going to be doing a stream on imperialism in Africa. We're talking about Leopold and the Rwandan genocide, all this other stuff. Like, the violence here is really inhuman. I mean, I can't even examples like this.
Carry passbooks in public at all times. In response, the CAO were part of a coalition that organised thousands of people to protest in London, and the organisation evolved quickly from that point forward. From March of 1960, the subcommittee had settled on its new name, the Anti-Apartheid Movement, or the AAM, and its membership grew, with the majority of members now being South African, many of whom were in exile in Britain. At this point, Black activists and members of the wider Black intelligentsia remained in active solidarity to this organisation, and throughout the 60s...
Alan, 100%. I really ought to talk more about Sudan. That's another one of the places where genocide has been going on. Colonial, yeah.
In the 70s, the black population in general took part in sports boycotts, notably cricket and rugby, while students once again gradually became more prominent in the movement as the generation of British-born black Caribbean children entered higher education. In 1976, following the Soweto massacre, in which hundreds of black schoolchildren were gunned down by police as they protested the introduction of Afrikaans in schools, the West Indian Standing Conference, or the WISC, organized a mass...
This image I've seen before. I'm literally getting a chill down my spine. Just look at the emotion in this image. This woman crying out, seeing her child like this. That is the results of imperialism, folks. This is what, really heartbreaking.
Demonstration in Notting Hill. 2 months after the Soweto massacre, Notting Hill Carnival that year saw the worst brutality from the police at that point, unleashed mostly on young carnival goers. Amid this, the WISC, seeing the parallels between South Africa and Britain, started to encourage members to boycott products and picket retailers. By the 80s, at a time when then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was referring to the ANC as a typical...
Oh, Margaret Thatcher, another monster. Gross person. There's a lot of biopic pics and stuff about her that really downplay how horrible she was for Britain, the amount of damage she did to the UK, to Britain, to the world. Okay, really unpleasant person.
Terrorist organization, and when members of her party repeatedly called for Mandela to be hung or shot, even reportedly selling t-shirts at their party conferences, more and more councils started boycotting South African products. In 1981, Sheffield became the first to sever all ties with the apartheid movement, including withdrawing pension fund investments and barring them from using their playing fields. Many others, including most inner London boroughs like Hackney, followed, and by 1985, 120 councils were part of some form of anti-apartheid initiative. Present-day London Borough of Hackney could never. So it was at this time that we start seeing an increase in places being named after Mandela, and interestingly enough, the creators of Only Fools and Horses initially named the house Nelson Mandela House to take the piss out of the loony left boroughs, naming landmarks and addresses.
Hey, folks, remember how yesterday we talked about, Louise? Louise being from the UK, Louise, Margaret Thatcher, way over, viewed too much as a hero. In a lot of circles, it's really disgusting to see that, even in the UK and the United States too. On a side note, mentioned how she just mentioned how some of these places started naming things after Nelson Mandela after being opposed to him. This is classic, folks. It's a way to diffuse liberal sort of sentiments. In the United States, we named a bunch of things after MLK, but then completely ignored his radical ideologies in regarding the economy. Absolutely same thing in Britain a lot of the time, naming things after Mandela, South Africa, etc. Because of this. Whitewashing 100%. Okay.
After someone who at this point was considered a persona non grata, a council like Southwark, where the show is set. The producers also named the fictional estate after the Tanzanian anti-colonial activist Julius Nyerere, who led Tanzania into independence from Britain. And so this was a very specific set of choices that they were making.
Yeah,
While Thatcher may have supported South Africa,
in
1984, over 50,000 people took part in a protest, many among them black, which was organized by the AAM against the then South African president, P.W. Botha's state visit.
So, folks, it's not an exaggeration. You have to understand when black Brits and Black Americans to go out and do these kind of protests, especially at this time, their lives are directly threatened. You have to admire the bravery here. Very, very brave heroes here that are doing this.
By the mid-1980s, 25% of ordinary, regular Brits of all races were boycotting South African goods. And this was agreed as good era, so this wasn't a particularly less materialistic or more ethical time. It was boycotts and action like this around the world that eventually evolved into mass disinvestment from South African banks, companies, and university endowments, which eventually led to the collapse of the apartheid.
Who was it earlier in chat that was promoting boycott about Target and stuff? Yeah, boycott can work. It can work. We just need people to do it. So, try to engage in boycotts when it comes to injustices as much as you can. Okay.
Economy and the end of the regime in 1994. Boycotts, while among some of the most passive of action one can take, are also among the most powerful in that the hit is financial and can be mortally wounding when enough people take part. So if you didn't know that what grew to be
one of the big reasons that the South African apartheid regime collapsed was because of boycotting. So just a note there.
Become the most powerful anti-apartheid boycott movement in Britain was pioneered by a black group comprised mainly of African student unions in the 50s. Well, now you do. We've never been too small a community to make our mark, not then and not now. And if you want to know more about what I spoke about today, most of it came from The Politics of Race in Britain and South Africa by Elizabeth Williams. I also got a lot of stuff from the AAM Archives website and The Guardian, as I have tagged throughout this video. You can't imagine such a stand being taken in local politics today, and especially not by the London Borough of Hackney, who refused to divest their pension funds from Israeli hedge funds, and Meg Hillier, who is the MP not for the part of Hackney that Nelson Mandela House.
So again, same in the U.S. A lot of the radical roots of a lot of groups in the U.S., including black groups, black rights groups, have been have disappeared, and they become more liberal organizations that don't really promote the radicalism anymore. It's an ongoing stressor of mine.
Which is Hackney North and Stoke Newington. She is my MP in Hackney South and Shoreditch, and the boundary actually only starts a few short streets away from Casnorth Road and Nelson Mandela House. Anyway, she refused to vote. She abstained vote that was seeking to make BDS illegal for public bodies, and she also abstained from a vote for a ceasefire in Gaza. She also has not said not one peep in defense of her Hackney colleague Diane Abbott, who is her senior and her forebear. And half the things that she'd be able to do in politics, she wouldn't be able to do without the likes of Diane Abbott, who, as of today, they are moving to replace her after nearly 38 years of being the MP in Hackney North and Stoke Newington, i.e. where Nelson Mandela House sits.
I love this.
How far we have fallen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. All right. Thank you for that video, Salmon. Good video there. All right, folks, let me put the face screen back up here. I think we're getting near the end. Let me put my face back up here. All right. Okay, how's everyone doing? Everyone doing well? We're doing good? Okay. Thank you, everyone who donated today. That was very kind of you. I'm going to keep working on the channel and stuff, uploading my videos. And if anyone wants to get engaged on Discord, please do. We have a great little community on there. We're very fast growing. Maybe it's not so little anymore. Yeah, you're right, Luke. Luke says, I was the president of a sustainability club at the community college. We got a chance to challenge Coke on greenwashing after they steal. Yeah. Oh, my God, Luke, you're after my own heart, Luke, 100%. A lot of companies engage in greenwashing where they try to present their products as being clean, being green friendly, and they're absolutely not. Hey, that's okay, Meowsworth. We're about to end, but please go back and watch. Thank you, Salmon. You have a good weekend too. Yeah, folks, please. Yeah, you're right, Fox. It's saddening how horribly the cradle of humanity is treated now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Fox Emblem. Luke, the Catholic Church. Luke, you are quite an intellectual here. Thank you for your contributions. Luke, the Catholic Church did a lot of damage in Africa as well. Oh, Luke, don't even get me started. Yeah, okay. They turned blind eye to the Rwandan genocide 100%, and a lot of their priests actually participated in it. One priest in particular lured a bunch of Tutsis into his church and then called up the Interahamwe militia and to slaughter them. I mean, we will talk about the Rwandan genocide. We'll talk about the Rwandan genocide sometime. Okay. Okay. And exacerbating. Yeah, because the Catholic Church cares more about condoms than they do about people dying of AIDS. 100%. It's disgusting. Yeah, Macy, I'm so anxious that NOAA funding was cut in my app. Yeah, it's very possible, Macy, because the current administration has cut funding to one of the premier. Hey, one thing good about being American is we do have one of the premier weather tracking organizations in the world. NOAA is absolutely one of the best in the world. Many countries rely on them, and we have cut their funding, which means that our forecasting will be less accurate, not only for ourselves, but for the Western Hemisphere and a large chunk of the world. Real disastrous stuff there. Just be more cautious about weather statements because they no longer have the funding they need to fully do good forecasting. Okay, guys, let me see here. Okay. All right, guys, I think you know what's coming. Thank you again, everyone, for your chats, etc. Thank you, Luke. Really, thank you very much for that. Thank you for the super chat. See you next time, Oz. Okay. Oh, Luke, my uncle died in the 1990s. He was one of the first people in my area with HIV, and people were pretty terrible to him. You're gonna make me cry here, Luke. Yeah, that. Yeah, I'll talk about this on my stream. It was monstrous. You can also Reagan was a big problem with this. Yeah, the conflation with gay, the LGBTQ community and AIDS, the idea that some people had that it was God's punishment. I could go on and on and on. Really, really horrific human beings that did that to people with a deadly virus. Really disgusting. Yeah, really disgusting. Meowser, my uncle in the 80s, gay icon with HIV, and he gets a lot of backlash even from the family. What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? I don't even know what to say about that. That's just really disgusting. Really disgusting.
Yeah, it's a dead. Yeah, okay. Anyway, you would be shocked, folks, at the number of students I've had who parents believe in conspiracy theories regarding HIV or believe that it was God's punishment. It continues to blow my mind, even in the modern 21st century. Yeah, Alan, I will gladly cover the Bosnian genocide. Really complex issue there, but a very important one. Yeah, your mom told you horrific stories. Ooh, I would love to hear those at some point. Uh, I know, right, Macy? Maybe if the fam understood the difference between bacteria and a virus and how both are treated. Yeah, Luke, I don't blame you. I'm not easily shocked anymore, and yet you can see, folks, I still do get shocked by things like what we watched yesterday, because the horror seems to be never ending. Okay, yeah, Promethean Rebel, thank you for that. Yes, live long and prosper, Promethean Rebel. Okay, guys, I think you all know what's coming. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, I know, Druzilla. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. All right, guys. I think you know what I'm going to say. You ready for this? First of all, free Palestine. Okay, 100% free Palestine. Second of all, you need to keep resisting. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves. And that includes when you watch me. I can get things wrong. I'm just some random guy on the internet. Whenever you watch someone on the internet, you ought to question, if what they're saying is true. Okay. The easiest way you can resist is to think for yourselves, including when you're watching me. Secondly, we are living in a fascist time. Okay, it's a disaster. Fascism thrives on a society that no longer trusts the democratic system because it's no longer seen as providing what people need. Just look at what we learned today about Robert Paxton and his five stages of fascism. Okay, we need some major reforms in this country. You cannot sit in the center. We cannot do it. Okay, that will just make the fascism worse. It'll make it keep continuing. It'll get worse and worse and worse. We need major reforms. Okay, you cannot sit in the center. Lastly, behind me on the wall. Okay, behind me on the wall is Chainbreaker. Chainbreaker is a sword from the Civil War. It's thought to have killed 7 slave owners. All right, we can never forget the sacrifice that people in the past have made for some of the privileges we have today, some of the rights, some of the labor gains we have made here and around the world. We cannot forget their sacrifice. We cannot let it go to waste. When we have to make for a better future so that their sacrifice doesn't go to waste. Okay, you cannot be neutral on a moving train. Thank you, Luke. And on that note, folks, you have a good rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. I will come back on tomorrow. Have a good day, right?